that we were still missing this information and that the audit was going to be late. He informed me he was going to notify City Council. He already had a standing meeting and was going to tell all of you. From that point on, we had weekly phone calls with the former finance director trying to obtain the information. We were consistently told in the next week we would get it. We did not receive it for 6 months. So we also called the city manager in November because you had to respond to the Joint Legislative Audit Committee by mid-November. If not, they will cut off your funding. We did not want that to happen. So we made sure the city manager was aware and that the former finance director had actually responded. On December 15th, we finally were provided the fixed asset and debt information. And then we worked very diligently through the holidays to make sure that your audit was done as quickly as possible. And then we finished on January 14th. So for financial summary of how the city did, compared to, you did get a clean and modified opinion. So that is the opinion that you do want to receive on your financial statements. Your general fund, that's the main operating fund for the city. If you were to compare it to fiscal year 23, you had a $3 million increase in your revenue. This was primarily due to property taxes and permits. Property taxes is mostly increase in property values back in 24. Your expenses increased approximately $1 million. This was mostly salaries and benefits. And you had a positive increase in your fund balance of $1.2 million compared to 2023 where you used $4.6 million. So that was a swing in the right direction that you want to go in. Your other major funds, you have your CRA, your building fund, and fire operations fund. Those all had positive changes in your fund balance. Cherry Lake Construction had a use of fund balance, but that is a capital projects fund. So as the project continues, you expect to see a use in the fund balance. And then I wanted to point out in your non-major funds, you do have a grant fund that shows negative fund balance. So it looks like negative equity, but it's really timing. So with government accounting standards, you can't recognize the revenue if you don't get the cash within 60 days of year end. And grantors do not always pay timely. So you requested the funds, it didn't come within 60 days, so it looks negative, but it really is just a timing issue. Once those funds come in, it'll wash to zero. For your audit findings, we had 2 from 2023. Both of them were cleared. So management cleared the grant reporting where they were not being reviewed, and they also cleared the software issue that was related to building permits. We had 1 finding for 2024. There were some building permits and related impact fees that were issued at a lower established rate when they were entered into the system. We did not receive any information prior to issuance of why. They could see it was entered in and manually put in, but nobody knew the reason why. As we were trying to plan for 2025, staff has now subsequently found resolutions from previous years where City Council did approve for those to be at lower rates. So if we'd gotten that before the audit was issued, you wouldn't have had the finding, but it is now already cleared for next year. And the biggest bright light is we didn't have any audit adjustments. So we had no adjustments to any of the numbers we were given. So even though it took a very long time for us to get the information, once we got it, it was correct. So our goals for fiscal year 25, we have talked with staff and they've agreed with the target date of June 1st. So this will be the earliest we will have ever issued it if we were able to accomplish that. And this, again, the state's deadline is June 30th. Any single audit's deadlines are also June 30th. We have a request list out with management and they're already starting to provide us information. Are there questions? Is there anything I can answer for anyone?
Thank you. Yes, I'm sure there are. Amy Jo, would you have any questions?
Not yet. Wait a minute.
Steve?
I have some for, can I call Michelle up? Everyone the crowd too, how long have you been on the job?
Today is day 16, technically.
16. So some question, and you and I have had some of this discussion before. When you came on, what was your belief or what have you discovered of why this was late?
From what I have uncovered is the staff does a great job, and they are pulled in multiple directions. They also had loss of staff last year, many priorities that also pulled at the same time. And with all of that, it caused the delay. And so that's why we are working diligently now to make sure that we don't have any of those again this year, and with the target date of June 1st.
And so it seemed like some of it was you all were reaching out to our current finance director, I'm guessing?
Previous finance director.
Yeah, our previous finance director, and then every few weeks saying, we still don't have the info. Once you finally got the info, it was correct, but it was just extremely delayed. Okay. And was that because just getting it over to you all took time, or was it someone was backtracking and trying to complete information, or?
Aaron might know a little bit more, but the fixed assets and the debt, those sections, the fixed assets and the debt. So your normal, like if you have a for-profit company, you buy, a piece of equipment, you put it as an asset, you start depreciating it. In your statements, because it's a different set of accounting standards, you just expense it for what you paid. So at the end of the year, they're going through and finding the fixed assets and building that fixed asset schedule. So it wasn't being done during the year, correct? You don't know? Yeah. So it was not being done during the year. So at the end of the year, it was a big project to then find everything that had happened for 12 months and come up with a schedule that we could audit.
And then we're in 2026 now, so I'm guessing most of 2025 financials were done similar. So are we going back and now fixing, or just to make it easier for you all at the end of this fiscal year?
Sure. So with regards to the debt, the previous finance director was diving into all of the debt schedules and things like that. The previous finance director before her had handled that in its entirety. So when the subsequent finance director was going to look into the debt, it was something that she was going to have to, she was teaching herself what to do. And in the meantime, we had the utility rate issues, we had the DOJ, we had the 2 FEMA claims, the loss of the procurement department, which we inherited. So there was a lot of different directions that we were all being pulled into. So looking into 25, one of the things we're more, even though we're starting behind and as far as our timeline goes, we had processes put into place in 25 that were different in 24 that's going to lessen the amount of backtracking that we need to do to be prepared for the audit. So there's going to be far less journal entries and things that have to be done in order for us to get the trial balance complete. And we spent a lot of time, especially with regards to the fixed assets, going back through a year's worth of transactions to make sure that they were properly coded right. We have done that in 2025 at the front as the invoices are being processed, so it should be lessened on the back end. Looking forward, we hope to be able to do these on a quarterly basis once we get even. And we're very fortunate now at this moment, while we're still short in staff, we have been given the resources to lean on some outside accounting firms to get some of this audit work completed to get us timely submitted, which we didn't have last year. And with regards to the fixed assets, in 23, when the fixed assets were done, we did that all, well, I wasn't here in that time frame, but the staff at that time frame, they did all of the fixed assets using Excel spreadsheets and getting that together. And last year, we used our Tyler software because they have a module there for that. We had not done that before, and so that added some time onto our process of getting the fixed assets turned over. And to offset that, we've already reached out to our Tyler support staff and asked them for the best fixed asset person that they could give us. And we have 12 hours blocked on 3 days in the month of March to be able to not have that be a factor in us having a delay in getting the audit done on time.
And did you all check for the audit, checks and balances, internal controls, are being followed? Is there correct procedures?
Correct. Yes, so we check the design of your internal controls, and we do test some of your internal controls for efficiency purposes. So we typically test controls over revenue and cash receipts because it's a large volume of transactions, and we can't easily, check every single one, obviously. So anytime if we see a gap in controls, you would have a finding. So like last year, those grant reports were not, I say last year, 23, those grant reports were not being reviewed, you had a finding related to that. So if we notice anything, then you end up with a finding. So we didn't have anything where we noticed the gap. It was just that one-time instance of the permits not knowing where the documentation was.
Well, I appreciate the work that the three of you and your teams have done. I have a background in nonprofit management, and I've walked into organizations and had to do single audits on documents that I did not control myself, and it takes a lot of time and going through boxes and praying it's all correct, but then finding it and correcting things when it's not. So thank you all.
Mr. Jaycox?
Yes, how long did it take you to finish the audit after you received the information that was required?
We gave the draft to the city, I think about January 8th. And then once they have the draft, then it's making the management discussion and analysis, the front part, to match the financial statements. So then that was a few more days. But we issued then on January 14th. So it was 30 days from when we got it to when we issued.
Is the audit for 2025 on track?
We've already started planning. Staff's already uploading some information. And so we've already outlined the due dates if we're going to meet the June 1st. So Michelle and Aaron are on board with, we're going to get it all done by that date.
Has the city implemented the recommendations about not overriding?
Oh, yeah, we could speak to that. We had some information that provided some background in terms of any waiver or reduction on building permit fees before. Essentially, it was a council-approved resolution that allowed us some abilities to annex properties in the Ford Commerce Park that were going through the county development phase. We would have had to service them in terms of utilities, police and fire. Michelle prepared some information that gives an idea of what those reductions look like, specifying which resolution was referenced, and then also the additional fees that did come to the city that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. Michelle, are you able to share that for the council?
Yes, they are
Thank you.
bringing it up on the screen. So there was a total of 4 permits. One of them, hoping it comes up here in a second, one of them it was applied for before the fee increase, but because of the fire station, and there was a delay. Nope, wrong one. There was audit findings. As a result, the permit was not officially entered into the system until October 2022, nearly 1 year after the initial application date. The other 3 were one developer, and I know that we've got staff that can talk more about this, but this was one that they used the resolution that was passed by the city council at the time to go forward with it, to give the city manager permission from support from the chief building officer to reduce or waive certain building and development fees when appropriate. And I know that TJ can talk more on that and give you a little bit more about it. But there is some good numbers from this, so it wasn't really that we reduced it. It was a long-term plan.
Mayor, members of council, TJ Fish over Transportation Public Works. As you know, I'm also involved in utilities. We had a specific property at Independence Boulevard and Republic Drive, right across from Amazon. That property was not in the city. We had a developer out of Atlanta, Stonemont, who happened to own 2 properties, ready to build 3 buildings, thus 3 permits. One of the properties, not in the city. The other property next to Kroger, already in the city. It became a package deal because basically as we dealt with them, to entice them to annex, the first step was to state that we're not prepared to serve you with utilities, which was just a creative way to say, please annex into the city, candidly. And so as we got their attention, they responded, we're happy to annex into the city of Groveland. However, our pro forma, when we look at Lake County's permitting fees, and we look at your permitting fee schedule, it's a pretty significant impact. If you could work with us on that, we're happy to annex. We sealed the deal, they annexed. So thus the reduction in those fees, and then you can see the net result is they are in the city. We did collect the building and other fees associated. They are now paying property taxes and fire assessments to the city of Groveland, and the net effect was exactly what the city council expected when Resolution 2023-4 was approved, economic incentives to entice investment. Any questions?
So the budget impact is really not a budget impact?
It was not a net loss for the city in any regard.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. No further questions.
Stephen asked a lot of the questions I was going to kind of lean towards, and he phrased them better, so I'm going to be good for him. Thank you, Steve.
I have questions for Michelle, Aaron, and the auditor. Michelle, when you came on board, it was my understanding that there was going to be, for lack of a better term, an internal audit done. Is that correct? Okay. Has that audit been completed? And if so, when will council see the results?
It wrapped up last week. Our Clarion Partners is who we use. It's an assessment, not an audit, because we have an audit firm. It is an assessment of how much staff we have, what are their duties, so forth. And if we're doing things efficiently and running as smooth as we can. My motto is let's work smarter, not harder. And right now, we push a lot of paper, and we are not working smarter. And so that's part of our problem. We're working on the efficiencies. I'm expecting the report. It was 3 to 5 weeks. He wrapped it up last week. So I'm expecting it in another week or so.
We will, the council.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
We will be getting.
Yes, ma'am, you will be getting a copy of that.
Okay, that's the only question I have for you. Aaron, I think I heard you say that you are short on staff.
Yes, ma'am.
So with that being said, can you tell me right now how many people you have in finance?
Well, we have utility billing. We have 4 customer service reps, a customer service supervisor, and a utility billing manager. So that's 6. We have 1 accounts payable, 7. We have a buyer, 8. 2 accountants, 10. A deputy director of governmental funds, that's 11. Myself is 12. The budget manager would be 13. And then we have 2 part-time accounting clerks.
And so that's a total of?
13 plus 2 half FTEs.
And when you say that you are short on staff, help me understand what that looks like and why.
So we, back last year, about a year ago, we inherited the procurement department. So the procurement manager position has been vacant that entire time. The buyer position vacated in May, and we did not fill that until about October, and we filled that internally, which that took our half of accounting clerk and transferred that to the full-time buyer position.
Who is the buyer?
Currently,
The one that you-
Renee Gorgon is the buyer. And then we lost January 2nd, we lost our utilities accountant and then the finance director position.
And I think I heard you say, the acoustics in here are really bad, but I think I heard you say that the former finance director was teaching herself some things on the job. Is that right?
That's correct, the debt, all of the debt, because the previous finance director had handled all of the debt herself. And so when she left, the new finance director was teaching herself all of the debt.
Okay. Who's the new finance director?
It's vacant. I'm serving as interim.
Okay.
The previous was Joanne and then Pam. So
Okay.
Joanne handled all of the debt, and then she left, and Pam was teaching herself basically the debt.
So when you made the comment, who was teaching themselves? Who was it?
Pam Brzezowski, the previous finance director, she was working through all of the debt.
Comment on that. Well, I understand that if I'm working in a hospital and now I go to the city or to the library, I am now going to have to learn the library way of what's doing things, but to be equipped when I go in. So I'm really kind of saddened to hear that pretty much it was OJT training for the amount of money that was being paid. And that's the only questions that I have for you, Erin. Now,
I will share that we agree with that internally, and one of the things that we talked to the outside accounting, who's doing the organizational review, is as he's doing this review, we've asked him to put different job responsibilities and roles in place where there's overlapping duties, and that's something that we lack right now in the department. And so our hope is that, those things don't happen again, and that we're able to build those into our processes.
wasn't that salary about $165K?
For,
How much was the finance director being paid?
I do not know the answer to that.
For the record, can we get a response back on what the finance director was being paid? And the reason that I bring that up is because it's kind of scary that you're teaching yourself on the job. So that's all that I have for you.
Well, maybe my choice of words wasn't the best there as far as not teaching herself, because she is completely certified. It was just learning the intricacies of the city. She understands all of the debt and how it works, but it's that inherent knowledge that she was looking to teach herself of.
Okay, again, for the record, if you could get me that salary, I'd appreciate it. So now, I'm sorry, what's your name?
I'm Christine Noelran.
I can't hear you.
Christine Noelran.
Okay, Christine.
Yeah.
I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
Are you able to speak on the impact that the delay in submission had for the city, for the state, for grants, et cetera?
Some of that, yes. So when you miss the deadline of June 30, when the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, JLAC, meets, it's typically end of August, beginning of September on their schedules, then they send you a notice of like, you didn't turn in your schedule. So if you get your audit in before they meet, nothing happens. If you don't, once they send you that letter, they give you a couple months to respond to that. Again, the ideal is to get the audit in before that, and the answer is, I have fixed it, nothing needs to happen. If you ignore the letter and don't respond, then they cut off your state revenues. So shared revenues and things that you get monthly from the state, they would stop sending them to you. And then they send you already turned it in, so you didn't get to this point. But if February or so, you still have not responded, sent anything, at that point, it's turn it in by this date, or you won't even get cured and get the back pay of now that you fixed it, and then the state keeps the money. But you did not reach any of those milestones.
Christine, I know the acoustics are bad in here, but I'm really having a hard time hearing you, so I won't ask you to repeat what you just said.
Sure.
But I would like to know what the risks were because our submission was sent in late. What kind of risk was it? Was it not a big deal? Is it a moderate deal? Is it a big deal?
For the state, since you have fixed it now, in their eyes, you're fixed, there's no ongoing issues. If you continually are late, sometimes the state will want to help you, and then they start showing up on a regular basis. I'm not sure how helpful that is, but they have lots of phone calls with you. For granting agencies, they can sometimes withhold your funds and not give you your funds if the single audit is not submitted on time. So there's probably more ramifications potentially with your grant, with it not being on time, because they can withhold your funding, and then you need that cash to pay everyone.
So just to be clear, it's not a little deal.
It's like, I would say it's moderate. It's not, because once you fix it, you're okay. Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's not,
It's like middle. If you're paying like low, middle, high, it's, yeah. The grantors are probably more concerned if you submit it late and you had a whole bunch of findings and question costs and things you had spent wrong, and you did not have any of that.
okay. Walk me through the process. Let's say that our audit is due in June. Does your firm come out with like a 3-month notice, hey, your audit is coming up? And if they do, who does that notification go to?
So typically, we are talking at the beginning when it's ongoing with the finance director and the finance team. If we have a list of here's everything that we need. So like it's already posted now for fiscal year '25, and they upload the information as it's ready. And when it's not coming in on time, then we start having the more regular phone calls. And once we reach that kind of critical point of I don't have it, I can't finish, then we're escalating it to city manager as necessary and up the chain.
Okay, so I'm not understanding. If the audit is due in June, your firm, does it say 3 months ahead of time, hey, your audit is coming up? Does your firm do that? Notification that the audit is coming up?
We have planning meetings and discussions with the finance staff, yes, so they're all aware that it's coming up and the items that we need.
And who does that go to?
The finance director. They're the primary contact and the one providing us with the information we need.
Okay, I'm really coming down to the end. How does the late submission increase the risk of the findings or compliance issues? Does it impact it at all?
The findings that we write in our report, not necessarily. If they're still doing all the things that they're supposed to be doing timely, other than providing us the information, that's not necessarily going to cause an increase in the controls in terms of the information being incorrect.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, and I just have a few questions. You said we got the final audit in on January 8th, or was it later? Did you get it back to us on January 8th? Because I thought it was the 14th.
I gave the draft to management on the 8th. They have to read through and take responsibility for it, and then they are supposed to prepare the management discussion analysis.
Okay. All right. All right. I don't know if anybody can answer this. Tim, how much, I know we've got somebody in the room that can tell us about $100 million, but how many grants do we have from the state? What's our risk factor on grants?
In terms of number of grants, I'd have to defer to finance for a list. Yeah.
Just in wastewater and stuff? What is it? Can you tell me, Justin? Grants?
Mayor, approximately 70 million in water, wastewater, stormwater, et cetera.
70 million, and then we have all kinds of other little grants going on out here and all that, so it's not a little deal. When was the audit actually due? My information was that most cities do an extension from June until November. Is that not a true statement?
The state doesn't provide extensions from June to November. It's really if you had given it to the state and turned it in before that JLAC letter was due, there's no ramifications, so it's kind of like an extension because there's no consequences yet, but there's no official letter to give you an extension.
But it's recorded as being after the deadline with the state, correct? I did receive, and I appreciate in June, a thing saying, we're not getting our stuff. And don't count on having a June issue of this report. We said we were going to so-called extend it, and then I got another issue in September 16th that, hey, we don't have the information. I discussed that with our staff higher up, than higher labor grades than are here, and was told not only that it was being worked on every day that it would be in, and I even had our city attorney check into it, and it was the 7th of November when that was supposed to be due. Can anybody tell me what happened between why the 7th of November never was hit, and it was all the way till I got a call on the 16th of December from, I just want to make this clear, 2 of the people on this auditing committee are our representatives. The senator and the House of Representatives are on that committee. Get a call, hey, what the heck's going on in Groveland? So I'd like to understand what changed from the written materials I got back that it's going to be done in November 7th to it not being done until January 8th.
We were constantly promised that it would be the next week by the former finance director. And in June, I would have told you I would have been shocked to say we still weren't done in November. We had 2 sections left. Shouldn't take more than a month once we got the information. She tells me she's working on it. It's coming very soon. I fully anticipated we would have been done before you even got the letter. And then the information never came, and it never came. Pam would have to probably tell you why it never came, because we were just constantly told it's coming.
I don't want to beat that dead horse, but do we have an understanding that somebody needs to raise a red flag or throw up a flare or whatever, jump off the building? I don't care, but that we need to get this in, and I want to discuss on time. On time, to me, having a September 31st close is March. And the reason every business I've ever been in or run, it's in March, is so we have an audited statement to start budgets, because you're 2 quarters in, half the year is gone. When I was told that we always filed extensions because it's something that happened, so I called the Auditor General, and I got back from them that we haven't in the past 5 years had one that was registered after the end of March. So we were in that timeline. And you were our auditors back then too, right? We just extended your thing in December?
So March is not the deadline for the state. March is only a deadline if you're doing an annual comprehensive financial report, which the city does not do. It involves additional statistical schedules and other things in the statements, and that's to get an award, so you get a certificate and you pay someone to evaluate your financial statements. So you weren't late in the previous years because they were due June 30.
Yeah, if we're in June, but we've been able to do it for the past 5 years in March, correct?
You've never issued in March. I've never received your trial balance before April.
Okay, well, I'll circle back because the letter from the Attorney General, the Auditor General is different.
If you go to the Florida Auditor General's website, you can see the last 4 years of financial statements, and our date is always June 28th to June 30th.
We'll compare notes.
Okay,
and
that's
where
fine.
I got mine and you got your information, okay? In this process, do you check on aging debt? If we're out of compliance on paying debts at all, like 4 months out or 3 months out or 2 months out?
Yes, we check to see that you're paying on time with your schedule and you haven't violated any debt covenants.
You found no issue with us with that at all?
No, you didn't have your new debt that you issued subsequent to 2024. That one has a date for needing an audit. It's the same as June 30, year end, but you did not have any deadlines that required audit to be in on the other ones.
Okay, I mean, that sounds like we don't have a standard. Do we have a standard on how long, Michelle, or do we have a standard on how long it takes to pay the debts? Do we do 90 days? Do we do 60 days? Do we do 120 days? What is our standard debt relief? When we pay back our accounts payable, what is that span?
Honestly, it does depend. We are working through all that, but our debt that we do have, most of it's on auto deduct, so we do not miss that when the due date is due.
Okay, so that debt, you're talking about loans, I'm talking about accounts payable.
Accounts payable, we are working through that process. Again, it's a very manual process right now. We do have some bills that are outstanding that we are working on clearing. And we are putting in some new processes so we do not get into this boat again for this year. And working through with the department directors to make sure that they understand what the expectation, and it's not based on the finance team not paying a bill, it's because things don't match. And so we want to make sure so we don't have corrections when we go for the audit, everything matches and everything is in compliance. So we're working through all that, and we have cleaned up quite a bit in the last 16 days.
Believe me, I'm not criticizing, I'm just trying to figure
Yeah,
out
we're
why
working through
that's
it.
not in the audit if we're late on payments. Back to because I hear this quite a bit out in the community, and people are even adding on to their bids more dollars because we don't pay our payables on time. So how does that come up in the?
Sorry, I was referring to your long-term debt, the ones that were on auto pay. So your accounts payable, we check aging at the end of the year, but if they're catching it up and they're paying and the liability is properly booked, that it's recorded, it's really a management decision of how quickly you are paying with your cash flows. It's not necessarily an out-of-compliance issue for an audit.
Yes, please.
On that note, and this is more for Michelle, what would you think, and you and I have spoken about this on some things I've heard from the community on outstanding invoices, what would be your goal going forward on how quickly to pay invoices that come in from vendors and different?
My goal is not to pay anything by check. It gets lost in the mail. And invoices come, I'm trying to get it all electronic so that department directors can approve it. Boom, it comes into our system and we pay it electronically. I'm from you pay everything with the 30 days. That's where I come from. That's how I roll. We use our local vendors. A lot of them are mom and pops and they rely on that. And we have to do our due diligence to make sure. And that is why we're working with our department directors now to make sure that when they submit things, everything's correct. But we are we have software that we have not used yet that is already ready for us to just start using, and that is something that we are working on to change that process, hopefully in the next 30 days. So my goal is 30 days of a time it gets a bill, but I also understand mom and pops, and if we can get it sooner, that would be ideal for us.
Coming on as a brand-new city council member, I think Mike Walker took me out, and we were looking at the parks, and he wanted to City with Natural Charm, we had a movie night, and he wanted to make sure that the small mom and pop movie vendor was paid, and it seemed like it was a huge bureaucracy for him to try to get that done. So I think just living up to the natural charm element
Absolutely.
is important with
And
small businesses.
Vice Mayor, you will be pleased to know that we have posted for a true procurement manager because this is something that we really need. We've opened it up to many different websites across the state of Florida, not just here in Groveland, not just in Lake County. And so we are taking applicants now because I'll be honest, there's some things that I'm having heart failure on coming from the business side, the private sector, that I think needs to be tightened up, and we've got to tighten those quickly.
Have you thought of, may I? Have you thought about a executive recruiting firm Because
not looked at executive.
Procurement is no joke now.
I'm 100% understand that, yes, ma'am. Not an executive yet, because I want to see what we get here locally first. Or when I say locally, state of Florida,
okay.
not just here in Lake County, but we will if we don't get, I'll be honest, the finance director, we didn't get the candidates to the level that I was thinking that we should have received. We have brought in, Mayor, you'll be happy to hear, we are bringing in the a Clarion, who is our assessment. The person that is doing our assessment, he was the CFO at one time for the city of Tampa. He just came off of helping a couple other cities, Miami Beach. He's going to help us as an interim CFO right now to make sure that we manage the debt, make sure that we are on time with our audit, help us with the budget, and to get us through until we can find the right candidates. I am not a person that will just bring somebody in to fill a seat. It has to be the right person, and I am 100% going to believe that we will find. And if we don't find the correct procurement manager in a state of Florida search, we will go to a national search.
Well, that's good news to hear because it's not just about the homegrown people, okay? We need to expand our searches. So thank you.
I have a big question, if I
Yes,
can.
please.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I
continue.
got to rewind for a second.
Yes, ma'am.
So you said to take back 16 days, okay, when you got here. You said there were some accounts that were late. How late? Like, how long are these? Like, what? Give me an idea of what you were looking at.
There was some bills that have not been paid since summertime of 2024.
I'm sorry, I hallucinated. What?
Yes. The reason for that is we were missing some documentation, or the bills came over during, they had multiple months on there, which our fiscal year ends different than a calendar year. And so we have to go back to vendors, get the correct documentation to make sure that when we turn in our audit, everything aligns. And that is what we've been working with the directors to fix and with those vendors. Majority of all the vendors that are past due have all been paid. We have fixed quite a few of them. I mean, I have literally called people and asked them to sign a W-9. We were missing W-9s from some people. And I personally called, almost driven to their place of business to go get them before they sent it back to me. So we are cleaning.
Thank you so much. Back to you guys.
I look at you, Michelle, and first thing I want to say is, stop playing. Almost like it's a joke, you know?
No, ma'am, it's not a joke. It's
Yeah,
sad.
I'm done.
Okay, boy, this is almost like the congressional hearings. I'm so sorry. But I hope that out of this, we know that you can ask for help. I mean,
I appreciate that.
There will be people that will jump on board and figure it out because you're swamped. I can't imagine what you're going through, and we're very glad that you're here.
Thank you.
But glad isn't even a big, I don't have a vocabulary big enough to express it more than glad, but we are so glad you're here. We'll be talking about some of the things that you've mentioned about having people that can translate for you and also translate for us later in the program this evening. But thank you all for doing what you're doing. We're going to be talking about an operational audit. I don't know whether you call that an assessment now. Where I come from, it's an operational audit that goes into each department and figures out where we are. That was approved back in January 5th by this council. And we're
I
gonna
have
move
talked
forward.
to Christine about that, and she can fill in, but right now, we can't, there's no audit firm that is going to take it on right now because of all the other audits that are due. We do have a plan to discuss that after and get started before fiscal year end. So it's just waiting on when the auditors can pick it up, because I know that we have different firms out there, and I have talked to other firms, and they were like, Michelle, we won't touch it until after the state.
Well, I've talked to a few too, and I call them the Big Six here in Florida, and you're one of them. Congratulations. But yeah, we need to work together on that, because right now, if we bring people in new that have any business experience, we're going to make sure that we have everything correct and in place, or we're not going to get the people that we want coming in.
Correct.
They're not going to come in a crisis, right? So we really appreciate everything you've done, and please carry on. Thank you. Any questions from the public?
Yes. Alan Joyce.
Alan Joyce, my address is protected. Thank you for answering the $109,000 question, so that made a lot of sense. And Vice Mayor Gaines, to address how big of a big deal is it? It's in the eye of the beholder. Some people look at it smaller, some people look at it bigger. Someone should have raised the red flag so that you guys didn't have to have all these questions now. It should have been raised before tonight. And they should have come to you before. A leader should have come to you before and told you about whether it's delayed or whether there were staff issues. My previous life, I was fire rescue, went through the ranks. I eventually became the emergency manager for the city of Miami. I was placed over a situation, $300 million in grants, FEMA, UASI, and other federal grants. And on day one, I was told the audit was late and they could not get the accounting right. Shortly after, I got a phone call from the state attorney saying, congratulations, somebody is going to jail. That's a quote. I immediately went to the manager, immediately went to the council, and got the staff and got the team in place. Someone should have came to you guys a long time ago and put that in place. So it's a big deal. And you're right, it's a big deal. But who raised the red flag? So you guys are on the right track. So thank you.
Okay, I don't want to beat that dead horse, but my concern is, and I see a lot of people from our legislative delegation that goes up to Tallahassee, where this really impacts us is on bids for the next grants. People have been very honest with me. We're competitively bidding against other cities for grants, and this is really going to need a lot of repair work on our next visit to Tallahassee. So I think we all got to get our heads together and figure out how we're going to take care of this and make sure that we can move forward with the plans of the city. It is a big deal. Okay, so we need to have a motion to accept the resolution on 2026-9 to accept the required communication from the financial.
Move to accept Resolution 2026-9, acceptance of FY 2023-2024 financial audit and required communication.
Motion.
Second
We have a
that.
second. We have a second. Any further discussion? I don't see any. So we go ahead and take the vote.
Councilmember Chilkowski, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaycox?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gaines?
Aye.
Mayor Kehoe?
Aye. So passed. Okay, we're going to go on to agenda item 3, but I'm seeing a lot of people fidgeting. We're going to take a 5-minute recess for the council, and then we'll be back at 20 minutes till 9 for item agenda 3.
these two, let me throw these cards real quick.
It's not good for the ego asking for help.
They had to leave. So they're not gonna speak.
At least I didn't ask you to go help me in the restroom.
I would have said, call your wife back.
The worst part is when he goes into the public restroom and he asks people, he's like, I need help. We might need to take the gift away.
That looks like ethics. Thank you all. Come on, let's get on to. Oh, that's very nice. That's for asking the best questions. You got a trophy there? Okay, on to agenda item 3, consideration of approval of resolution 2026-11, settlement, separation, waiver, and release agreement between the city of Groveland and Michael Hine. We'll go ahead, if you don't mind, I'll give you a little history to where we are. Mr. Hine offered his resignation on Wednesday of last week. Mr. Hine put together his wishes for a severance package that we would sign and release the city from any litigation. You have been given in front of you a comparison of the forms from legal counsel and our HR department that take each one of these, take that recommendation for Mr. Hine as well as what's in our charter on separation that includes if somebody was terminated without reason or resigns. So you can compare between the three. This is to consider input from all of you. I don't think we can make a decision tonight. I would rather ask at the conclusion of this to get a consensus or vote from the council to finish up the negotiation with Mr. Hine with your input so we can sit down because Mr. Hine isn't here this evening, so we would have to carry on. So I would like to have our legal team as well as myself to sit down with Mr. Hine and talk the rest of this out, okay? So we will go ahead. I'd like our city attorney to kind of go through how we arrived at these 3 different scenarios.
So the 3 columns up on the screen depict 3 different scenarios. In the first one, under settlement, separation, waiver, and release agreement, those were the terms offered by Mr. Hine in exchange for a resignation. And so the settlement agreement contains those items that he is requesting council approve in exchange for him giving a resignation letter. The middle column is pursuant to the terms of the contract. He has an employment agreement with the city that was amended. The 5th Amendment is pertinent to this particularly, and this outlines what he is entitled to under the terms of the contract should the council terminate him without reason. There are 2 separate items listed under retention bonus, and that really is dependent on whether council delays whatever his separation date would be, or if the separation date, if you held a vote on March 2nd. So you'll see the asterisk, it affects when or how much of a retention bonus he would have to repay the city. And the last column is if he submitted a resignation letter voluntarily based on the terms of his employment agreement and the 5th Amendment, what those ramifications would be, which is you would not receive a release of liability, you would not pay severance, and he would repay part of the retention bonus and housing allowance. And those amounts depend, particularly the housing allowance depends on when the separation date is. So it was requested that this information, a comparison chart, be provided to council, which was distributed to council on Saturday.
Okay, the way I think we need to frame this, and you can, of course, chime in, is that we have 3 agreements. One of them is no litigation. 2 is, do we have exposure on litigation at all with the way the contract's written? 3, the service that has been provided by Mr. Hine to the city, which I hope that we take into consideration what it was when he came in and now what it is when it's leaving. And so we just need to kind of determine, I need to get your feelings on which one of these scenarios, or if there's a hybrid of these scenarios that you would like to discuss as we move forward and give us a foundation to move forward with. Go ahead, Steve.
I spoke with Anita extensively, went over each of the options. I felt comfortable coming in here and making a decision. So I think it's important that we don't drag this out, that we come up with a solution tonight and we vote on it, because the quicker we can get through this and onto the actual business of the city, I think is important. I also think it's important to, first of all, whenever you can get a waiver, I think it's important that you do that, because we don't know what exposure there is. But also, when you have someone who has been here for 8 years, has the internal knowledge, has been working on things like Live Well and other things that we all care about, I think it's important to have some type of leeway where we can contact him, not us every day, but whoever our interim is, to make sure that things are being followed up and we're not missing things. So I know the expenditures look large, but when you have someone who's been with us for 8 years and we're the city of natural charm, I would hope that we would look past personality and just try to come to a solution tonight. So I found it acceptable, the first option, but I want to hear what everybody else has to say.
Joe?
So I think it's really very important, not just what Stephen said, but also for a prospective city manager, that we don't drag things out and that we end things as amicably and professionally as possible. The optics of it are extremely important in trying to get the best candidate here. We don't want to scare anyone away because we drag things out or do things wrong. Mr. Hine was here for 8 years. If you do look at what the city was when he got here versus where we are now, I don't think it's debatable that he did a lot of good. So I did come in ready to make a decision. I do think that the first option makes the most sense. It ends things cleanly, and I think cleanly is important. The only question I had was on the other paper that we got about, like, is he getting his full salary until May 26th while only being available occasionally by phone? That's the only question I really had, because that seems a little bit excessive. The rest of it I was okay with, so.
I, for one, I'll stand in my own truth. When I saw the letter, I did not see the word offer to submit a resignation. It's that little word offer. So how many, I'll just talk about me, okay? When I saw the letter, what I saw is that he was resigning. But it was only after I talked to the city attorney that offer, he didn't really resign. He offered to resign. And I guess in accordance with one of these three choices. There is no doubt about it that Mike Hine has turned this city around. The settlement, separation, waiver, and release agreement, I did some more research on that, and that appears to be a mutual agreement. The concern that I have is that May 26th is far too long. Suppose we go out and find the Manhattans or anybody that can come in here and within the next 2 months can do the job. My concern with number one is that the timeline is too long. And while we are giving the perception of, not dragging things out, to me, it gives the appearance of dragging things out.
Thank you. Mr. Jaycox?
I have a few things that I'd like to discuss with this. On this option, in his contract on page 4 of the Fifth Amendment, on item C, it says that he has to repay half of his housing allowance, and you didn't put that on the termination with reason. And I was
I'm
wondering
sorry,
why
could
that
you-
wasn't on there.
can you point that out
Page
again?
4 of the Fifth Amendment, section C.
So if his employment ends under subsection 5C or D of the original agreement, then he must pay 1/2.
Right, so you need to update that section that the housing has to be reimbursed. One thing I'd like to state is that the citizens of Groveland are the victim in this whole thing, not Mr. Hine. I like Mr. Hine. Mr. Hine has been great to me. He's, he welcomed me into the staff when I was elected, and he's been very helpful. But it really is the residents who are the victim. We were heading in a direction that I thought was good, and now we have to step back. And that's of no fault to the citizens, and it's really of no fault to the council. It was Mr. Hine's decision. And for him to ask for this settlement and how much it comes out, to me, the number's obscene. I don't think we should make the residents of Groveland pay this. It's not right. He went outside of the contract. This settlement is not in the contract. There were 5 different ways his employment could end in the contract, and he chose to go outside of that and rewrite all the rules and come up with this own agreement. Now, I want to be fair to Mr. Hine. Mr. Hine's done a lot of good for this city, but his contract was fair. So I would rather go with the numbers that are in the contract than go with the numbers that he made up for this settlement. Now, when you look at this overall thing, Mr. Hine received a $40,000 bonus in the end of January. So you would have to add that $40,000 to the total gross cost to the city. It's just not the 14 weeks of when he wants to resign. His date. He pushed his date out until May 26th, I think, and then the 19 weeks of severance. Now, I have no problem with the 19 weeks of severance. He's earned every dime of that 19 weeks of severance. But the $40,000 that he received, that was part of a $60,000 retention bonus for 3 years' worth of service. So he agreed to stay for 3 years to get that $60,000 bonus. And within 7 weeks of agreeing to that, he's ended that. I don't feel it's right for Groveland to not be getting reimbursed for that $40,000. At least getting reimbursed for something from that $40,000. We got 7 weeks worth of that $40,000. So we got $2,692 in value of that $40,000. I don't think that's right to the citizens of Groveland. So I think we should ask him to give back some of that $40,000. The gross when you add that $40,000, is $191,507 to allow Mr. Hine to resign. I think that's obscene. I really do. Now, with the termination without reason, the severance pay is 19 weeks. It's $81,378. And if you use the contract, it figures out for the termination with cause, he would have to repay $15,000 of the $40,000. I would prefer half, but it's in the contract, so I'll go with the 15. So that nets it out to the city of $66,378. That I feel is more reasonable. But it's a negotiation. So we should actually have a negotiation with Mr. Hine. We shouldn't take his number on face value. You never get what you want. You negotiate down to a number. So he threw a number out, and some people are saying we should just go with that number. But that would be a disservice to the public, to Groveland, if we took that number, because that number is way too high, and that's money we could use elsewhere. So he's due his fair amount, but he's not due an excessive amount. I spoke with the city attorney before the meeting, and I asked if we could do both the vote on the settlement, or vote to give the attorney and the mayor a chance to negotiate, and also vote on the termination without reason to start the process, because we have to have a public hearing to have that process. So I'd rather them both go forward at the same time. Of course, the termination without cause would end if Mr. Hine agreed to a more reasonable settlement. It would end and it would go away, but it wouldn't delay the city from moving forward. So I would ask that we would do both of those to start off so we can have the process in place and moving forward instead of being delayed further on. Because I'd really like the city to heal. And the city can't heal while we're still talking about this, while we're still dealing with this. And the last thing I'd like to say is the last time the city hired somebody, they used a consultant, Colin Bragnizer Associates, and it cost the city $25,000, and they're the ones that got us Mr. Hine. Mr. Hine, I was told, was put in place within 30 days of after we requesting them to find us somebody, and he was put in as the interim. I believe that we should do something like that again, and we, since it worked out for 8 years the first time, I think we should go back with the same consultant and, and get ahead of him with that. That's what I have for now.
Okay.
Mayor, can I just correct one thing and address something that Councilmember Jaycock said? So in C of the housing allowance, the reason that it shows in the center column that he does not have to repay anything is because if you look, it's in the event his employment ends as defined in subsection 5C or D. 5C is if you terminate him with reason, and 5D is if he voluntarily resigns. And so if you terminate him without reason, there is no repayment of housing allowance required by his contract.
Thank you, I stand corrected.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, I'm on a little different path on the negotiation because Mr. Hine has he's in a house, and I don't know how we're going to handle that. We need to talk to him. Also, the automobile, we need to really get all this down. Now, on termination without reason, I know he's resigning, but if we boosted it up to that, I believe there's a 31-day window that he can stay on to make sure that there's a transition that's correct, and it's not 3 months, right? It's 31 days. Joe Henner, your mic.
Thank you. The contract does provide, if he does a voluntary resignation, he must provide 30 days written notice. And he would serve out that time at council pleasure. You must pay him through the 30 days. If you want to let him go earlier, you can, but it is a 30-day notice.
So, I mean, you can give us a base of 1, 2, and 3. We'll come back at the end with a motion on what you would like. Is there any further discussion here? Can we open it to the public?
I have more ones. I think well, first of all, Anita, did you create this, and how did you come up with these numbers, or did Mike Hine just throw them out?
So the financial piece was that was developed by HR today. So the handout that you received with the financials. Mr. Hine provided me with what he was requesting, which is the severance pay. He did not want to have to repay any of the retention bonus or housing allowance. He wanted to make sure that he had benefits and insurance for a period of 14 weeks. Because of the severance statute and the maximum you can do in order to keep someone on your insurance and receiving their benefits, they have to be an employee. So that's why the separation date is 14 weeks out. And he said that he would sign a release in exchange for the separation and in exchange for resigning. So those terms, those were like the general terms he gave me. And the draft was put together, and then staff was asked to assist, since they have access to the financial piece, to put together what the cost of each of these scenarios would be.
And I don't know if is Mike Walker here? Can you just, and this is a little off topic, but I'll bring it back to something. Do you know what the next 2 phases of the recreational park, how many millions of dollars was that planning to be? Yeah. Why I say that is we are separating from someone who has a ton of knowledge, who has been here 8 years. I'm going to harp on the Live Well contract because that's one that I've heard from Sean Parks and I've heard from others that their attorney has felt differently about what we were doing. So Mike Hine came up with a different plan, spoke with Anita. They went to Melanie, the county attorney, and has continued negotiating with her to make sure that she sees what we're trying to do, which is offload upwards of $60 million from taxpayers to a foundation, is reasonable. So there is lines where you'll see, hey, we're going to pay out $70,000. That's a lot of money. But when you compare it to having the knowledge and being able to reach out to someone, and we're negotiating a possible $70 million project, it pales in comparison. And I would just remind the council members, because I know we're all doing our best up here, but you have the team behind Mike Hine watching us. And we are the city with natural charm. We treat people how we want to be treated. I have left every job I've ever had in a positive way so that I could walk right back in if I ever wanted to. But it's always been up to the employer on how they left it with me. And I've had ones in the past that I knew they were going to need to reach out to me, but they felt like they had it all in the bag. They knew what they were doing. And months down the road, I get a call. And I think it's important that we remind ourselves that someone has been here for 8 years. This may seem a lot in comparison to just different things he's been working on. Some things are confidential that we can't even talk about, but different, we've been trying to bring in a hospital on 50 that he's been trying to negotiate, and different things that we've been trying to work on. And the staff is going to see how we treat Mike on how we're going to treat them. And I would just remind everyone that option one in comparison is not, we're getting a waiver. I'm happy to talk about the 14-week compensation if we want to bring that back, but that's where our team can reach out to him and get the advice. Anita can reach out to him and say, what was your idea with Melanie when we're negotiating? So I would just remind everyone, this is a tough thing for us, but it's even tougher for the staff that has worked with him.
Thank you.
I also wanted to go into that, what Barbara said, that May 26th is way off, and what if we got a new city manager in the meantime? Wouldn't it be nice for there to be a nice bridge of communication to the new city manager? So I feel like having him available, if we could get it done. Everything I've looked up says it can take upwards of 6 months to get a new quality city manager. And I don't feel like this is something to be taken lightly. I don't feel like it is something that we can just grab the first person and throw them in the seat. It's too important. It has long-term ramifications. It shouldn't be a rushed process by anybody's stretch. Like, it needs to be done diligently. Also, I got a question, because Mike and I had a meeting, as we always do, the Thursday before, and we had a conversation about a potential resignation at that time. And he told me he would if council wanted him to, essentially. And at that time, I had asked him if he wanted to be here still. And he said he did. So I was just wondering how we got to this point less than a week later, if anybody wants to take that up.
That's a good, I had the exact same conversation 2 days before he resigned. So I would love to have what led to him resigning or offering his resignation.
I'll be glad to comment on that.
Maybe that changes the way people feel about things, too, if we actually know what's going on.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Mr. Hine when I walked into his office, and he already knew what I was coming in for. And he offered his resignation at that time. The conversation was going to be, we have several ways to go with the things that have gone on in the city. That it's time for the city to take a different path. We have a reactionary management style. Whether we go back to the water bill, whether we go to the audit, whether we go to the Palisades issue, whether there's all along the way. And that reactionary style of management is tremendous when you come in to take over a company that's in trouble. That you have to be a general, you have to have 16 direct reports, you have to get everybody in react and get everybody going in a different direction. We've graduated beyond that, and we're into a place where the items are not, we haven't got a Gantt chart, we haven't got a process management system, we haven't got any of the things that we have all talked about, and organizational structure. Those organizational structure issues have been on the agenda for 9 months every single week. And so my process was here, before I come, I'm not coming to you all, and I'm going to Mike and saying, I'm going to bring up, there's 2 different scenarios. One is a termination without cause, which requires us to hit the gavel, and then we'll get a vote of the council. And it takes 3 votes. Or, let's figure something else out. And that's where this whole thing came from. There's several issues I won't go into that broke the camel's back on this more than the audit. But it's time for if you've been in companies like you've been suggesting, that there's times when a management style has to be taken in a different direction. And that was just my opinion and my talk with him. We can bring this back to a hearing and we can vote on that, but I had to be very upfront with Mr. Hine on where I was coming from and the rumors that he was hearing from somebody that, so it didn't fester, So we brought it to a head on Wednesday. And that's as honest as I can be, on it. He did offer to tender his resignation. It went from tender, we were going to have a joint press release that we both approved on 5 o'clock on Friday, and it was it was put aside and this letter went out that was a little bit different than the press release, and I'm sorry that happened, but hey, it's what it is. But if we want to take this back a step and vote on that continuation after, that's fine. But that's why Mr. Hine offered his resignation, was because of the conversation that we had about goals. And we have had that conversation together right down the street, you know, about things are broken, right down the street, all of us together. So
Can I ask you another question? What does a fair settlement look like to you? What does a fair settlement look like to you? What do you think we need to get out of this?
the fairest element would be to follow the contract. We could ask for forgiveness on the retention bonus, which is $11,000, forgiveness on the second $15,000, which is $26,000. In that, we have the freedom to say 31 days of salary, which would bring you almost back to, if we take the what he's asking for and roll it back 30 days, right? Because everybody says it's too much, but I would really not want to deviate from what our charter says. And I think that we have a pretty strong case on, because it does outline, and the contract outlines what the recourse of anybody is without cause termination, okay? So that's where I'm coming from. I'm more concerned about, you know, this being a soft landing, you know, but not going on so far that it keeps things in a turmoil. I know that we want a consultant. Just a second, please. We have a consultant, and I think that's great, but I'm sure all of you are receiving resumes already. From as far away as Okeechobee, I've got them everywhere because it traveled fast because of our salary structure. There's a lot of enticement into this community. And so we'll go through that. Remember, I'll say it right now, I was going to bring it up at the end. On Thursday, we changed the workshop agenda to target this and the financials from these guys only, and took everything off so we can go through the step-by-steps and what the interim is, more than who we have, if we're going to bring in somebody else immediately that can get in and help out as well. But that's a different subject. The subject is right now, what's the severance package? Mr. Hine will have a choice of taking first and getting litigation, or being absolutely, I think, dealt with fairly without cause, and we make it a fair and meet in the middle a little bit.
If I understood you correct, Mayor, is your concern the separation date of May 26th?
Correct.
So the offer that he has proposed sounds like you find that acceptable, just changing perhaps the separation date. So that's something, if, you know, the rest of the council, if there's a consensus, we could go back to Mr. Hine and propose an April separation date or the end of March sometime. And that's a 14-week window. And if that's really the hangup that council has, I think that's something we could go back to see if he would reduce it and you would have a settlement with him.
I think it's just semantics. I think we're going to end up at the same place. One is what is in the charter, and I would not want to start a precedent of everybody telling us what their separation is. If we take that and again, take off all the repays, take out, just like he asked for, and put the 30 days or 31 days in as an off-ramp, I think that we're about where we should be. You know, I mean, and you guys, that's just my opinion, so.
If we chose any option besides the settlement, he would get the terminate. First of all, I'm not in favor of terminating Mike Hine. So, but if we were to terminate without cause, he would be able to have a public meeting, correct?
Correct. He's entitled to request a hearing.
And then what the precedent, and I know you mentioned the charter, the precedent I don't want set is because we're all up here, we each have an equal vote. So if a city manager, if I went in to speak with a city manager and we basically had an ultimatum and they offered to resign, I would think the precedent that I would want set is we need to have a special meeting and inform everyone what's going on But I don't know, because if I heard you right, we were going to have a press release go out. We were going to basically announce everything without the input from the other 4 council members. So I get the making sure that we're following the charter, but that's also a precedent that I don't think, if we have an interim and then she and I have a tense discussion and then they offer to resign, I don't think I can just accept it and say, hey, let's put out a press release. I think we need to have a special meeting, bring that up, and go from there. And Anita, am I wrong in this, or what does our charter lay out for?
Well, I mean, for any action of council, it takes 3 of you to agree.
I'll accept what you're saying, except that Mr. Hine was to get with each one of you on Thursday prior to anything going out. I don't know if that happened or not, but he was going to talk to each one of you about this. He wanted to do it rather than me. I called each one of you and said, Mr. Hine is going to be calling you. I think if there's a hearing to be had, it's going to be up to Mr. Hine, if that's what he wants or not. The precedent isn't that somebody's going in and ranting and raving. The precedent is, hey, this is the path that's going to be followed, that I'm going to follow. And in the charter, it does say that the mayor can call a special meeting, period, and we can go through this. It's up to him whether he wants to go through that.
I think that's the proper, if someone resigned to me or Amy Jo or the vice mayor or Jay, I think we need to start setting a precedent that we're all included on these decisions. And I'm fine with what Anita said of talking about, and Amy Jo mentioned it also, the 14 weeks. If you guys feel like it's more fair to have 10 weeks or 8 weeks, I'm willing to do that, but I think we need to get closure tonight, have a decision so that the team knows that we're all moving in the right direction, the same direction, and we're not losing, because you mentioned stuff, and again, we've only been up here 2.5 months. So for me, you mentioned the organizational restructuring. We mentioned that at our first, at least with us. You guys could have been talking about it for 1.5 years, 2 years. It was brought up in December. By January, we had folks hired. We went from 14 direct reports to 5. So that's like the weekend, and why I found it very disappointing that he resigned is he and I literally went over, like 3 days before, the goals for the city manager in detail, because we were about to have the workshop on that. So I would motion to approve the number 1, the settlement, separation, waiver, and release, and bring down the 14 weeks down to 8 weeks, and see if that's acceptable to Mr. Hine.
There is a gospel song, and it goes like this. You don't know, you wasn't there, you don't know when, and you don't know where. For all of those on the outside, it's like family business. I could have just beat up my husband tonight before I came here. But that's not up for you guys to know. You don't know what is going on behind closed doors. While I understand that the people on the outside, some of the people that Steve mentioned, that's a mighty noble thought for them. But they don't know what Mike might be going through. They don't know what we might be going through. If you don't walk away with anything else tonight, I'm going to ask that you walk away with this. There's your side, there's my side, and somewhere in the middle, the truth. Now, trying to unscramble the egg is what I call it. You all had a conversation with Mike, and he wasn't going to resign. that's kind of like coulda, woulda, shoulda. He did. So we got to move on from, well, he wasn't going to resign. Well, he has now. So we can't get stuck on that. And for those people on the outside looking in, that's all that it is. From the outside looking in. Again, you don't know, you wasn't there, you don't know when, and you don't know where. Perhaps things, looking back, perhaps things could have been done differently. But we are where we are now. And I also heard Stephen talk about the resilience, the staff. But I'm here to say that I hope that staff is resilient enough, because trouble don't last always. There's an expiration date on messiness. And right now, we look like we're in a quandary or confusion. But I'm telling you today, trouble don't last always. And this too, whatever the decision is, we will get through it because there is an expiration date. So let's just be fair to one another, because we are the stewards of the taxpayers' monies. And that's all I got to say.
I'll second your motion, Stephen.
Second one?
His motion.
The motion.
What's the motion? Repeat the motion.
I made a motion to accept number 1, but to bring back the 14 weeks of compensation, salary, and benefits to 8 weeks. Do we have a rough estimate of what that would bring the $70,000 down to?
DEO can work on calculating that for you if you have other
We probably
discussion.
have more discussion, and we have
Yeah.
to hear from.
It looks
we wanna
like
hear-
rough math would be about 40,000. And just keep in mind, if things went badly and we had to, say, go to court over things, you're gonna get to $20,000 in attorney's fees before you hit mediation.
Talk to an attorney without
Like,
$20,000.
so keep that in mind when we're, how neat and clean we can do things versus how messy we can make it.
One thing I'd like to point out is the termination without reason was a negotiated clause in Mike's contract. He agreed to that contract in 2018. He re-agreed to that contract right in 2025. So he was perfectly fine with the ways he could be terminated for the contract twice. We're not imposing anything, on him, cruelly or anything like that. This is the way his contract was set up. What he offered was completely outside of his contract. Now, it's my opinion that we can negotiate with him, but we have to lead more towards what his contract said, and we could give him a little extra for the service he provided us.
That's assuming we would terminate him without reason.
We'd have to get through, there would have to be 3 votes to terminate him, and then we would do a possible public hearing after 2/17/2026.
I don't wish to terminate him. I wish to negotiate with him.
Yeah, it's negotiation, and it's just sticking with that. I think I understand what you said. The way the timeline could be at the shortest is that emergency meeting could be asked for tonight. We could have it after 48 hours, and correct me if I'm wrong, 48 hours is the minimum time according to.
We need to give Mr. Hine, if he requests a public hearing, we have to give him time to prepare for the hearing. My recommendation is no less than 7 days before you have a public hearing. We have to do public notice and make sure that he will be available for a hearing should he request it.
I understand that, but I'm talking about minimum. What we have in there is no less than 48 hours, right? After a special meeting is called for
In
by
your
the mayor.
charter
Yeah.
for holding a meeting?
Yeah.
Yes, but it's not recommended for an employment
I'm
action.
there, I'm just trying to explain what the pathway could be. It could be another month after that, but the minimum amount is 48 hours. It would be then a hearing for termination without reason. That's what it is.
And then there would be no,
And then you're at
No
6 weeks, because
layover.
you still have to pay 30 days is what,
And you would
in
have-
per the contract, it was 30 days.
and there would be no transfer of knowledge.
So
It
now we're
would-
2 weeks out for the hearing, 30
Exactly. That's
days,
what
you're
he's
at
trying to
6 weeks,
avoid, and
and
the
all we've
hearing.
done is make it messy.
That's why that's why I made the motion. Is it perfect? No, but it gets us where we need to get to.
Make the motion, second.
He
and
did,
we'll
and
get
I
the thing,
seconded.
You can always amend it later, you know.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All right, we'll open it for public comment.
Do I get to discuss?
Tim Laux.
That's after the public comment. We get to listen to people's first.
Thank you, Jenny. Mayor, Council, Tim Laux, 623 Neptune Drive. You know, I've sat here and watched this conversation go with the council in absolute amazement. The bottom line is Mr. Hine offered a resignation. He offered a resignation for the fact that he is not aligned with this council's wishes. It's very simple. We're giving him, from what I could derive, in excess of probably $100,000 to do this. Stephen, I'm sorry, I hope that's okay if I call you right, because I can't pronounce your last name. Okay. Stephen, you're new at this game. I'm not. I sat where Chef Keogh sat for many years. I sat where you sat for many years also. City managers' shelf life is normally the life of a council and a mayor. And fortunately, Mr. Lyon had the same mayor, pretty much the same council for 8 years. This council came in, elected in 2024, and they recognized that Mr. Hine had been running the city basically with minimal oversight or accountability. As time went on, it became a problem. Unfortunately, when he was approached to begin to give reports on accountability, he didn't like that and he didn't do it. Why, I don't know, but he didn't do it. And his solution to the problem was to resign. It's exactly what he did do. So with that being said, please keep in mind that Mr. Hine is also leaving the city with approximately $100 million in debt, outstanding bills, commitments to developers for $3 million for economic incentives. You talk about the taxpayers are actually the victim in this. Yeah, we've been the victim for well over 8 years because of this. You gave the...
Can we keep it on the, we need to keep this on the package right now. I mean, that stuff for the, I said at the beginning, let's pull that back for your personal comments, but right now, we need to be addressing these packages, and we have public input later for that, but if we can keep it, because we don't want to get it, we want to deal with this and then move on to the public comment. So if we can do that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, Mayor, I can do that. Basically, what's happened, we're going to sit and delay this, and you're talking about letting him stay here till April or to May, whatever the case may be. You've got a problem right now. I would hope that Mr. Hine had taught the interim city manager, if he is a city employee, some of the things that are going on in the city so he could step into that role. That was the purpose of having that. You're throwing good money after bad money. What's going to happen, I'm afraid, is you're going to end up poisoning the new city manager with the same methods that we've been going on for a long time. So my recommendation would be to go ahead and accept the resignation, set your terms. If he turns it down, terminate him with cause, bring it to a public hearing. He's going to sue us. Every single city manager that's ever worked in the city of Groveland sues us, and the insurance company settles with them. It's protocol for this city for some reason. So you need to just man and woman up and do the job that the citizens want to be done on this thing and terminate it. Let us move on. Hopefully the next contract, the next city manager you have is written a lot better than this one was, because this left so many open ends and so many hundreds of, thousands and thousands of dollars are going to be paid out with absolutely no benefit. Mayor, that's all I've got to say on this. I'll come back during open forum and finish stating my other issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen Eastridge.
Just for the record, in the video, that means fun, creative, and knowledgeable.
Absolutely.
For-
All of that means. all of
Fun,
that.
creative, and knowledgeable, please.
Yes, absolutely, Mayor. That's exactly what it means. So, Jen Eastridge, my address is protected. I think the safest way forward is going to be the first one, that he signs off a waiver that says that he can't come after us, he can't sue us, because just like Mr. Locke said, we have set a precedent that anytime a city mayor leaves, that there's a lawsuit filed. We've also set that precedent that signatures don't mean anything. Let's look at the council person that you had replaced, right? So signatures don't mean anything, contracts don't mean anything, nothing really means anything, except if we get a release from him that says, I won't come back, right? Does he have grounds to try and sue? Yeah, absolutely, because we know that signatures don't mean anything, right? But at least we have something. So while I was ecstatic to hear that he put in his resignation, I do agree with Stephen that probably the cleanest way is to shorten up that May 26th date and go ahead and have him sign that release and get to step in. Let's try and fix this city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ellen Joyce.
Alan Joyce, my address is protected. I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of great comments tonight. I wish the manager would have treated us the way that you guys are treating that. I really do. I felt like we were talking through them, and you guys got the Palisades issue. You understood it. I wish I could tell you what your right answer is. It's a tough situation. But I also know that you do need a manager that's going to work with you and is going in the direction you're going. Not personality-wise, but it's like it was time. And we could see it even looking at other meetings and going back and look at the tapes. It was like, man, the council would ask for this and it wouldn't get done, or it just, the urgency wasn't there anymore or whatever, I don't know. So it was obvious. And I understand about paying someone and being on good terms with them, moving forward and stuff. So I get that part of it and stuff. But it's a tough one. So you guys got a big decision ahead of you. Whatever decision you come up with and the negotiations that you do, I would also let you know that if it comes to where he's immovable, then you guys do have the right to call a special meeting. It's 24 hours in your charter, by the way, not 48. But you can decide tonight, you get 3 days, he resigned 3 days ago, 4 days ago, and you can make an employee decision now, but you need 7 days for a special meeting. I get all confused with why 7, not 3. That gets confusing for me, but that's for another day. But you do have that option if he doesn't meet your contract needs that you think is reasonable, and you will determine what reasonable is. I would hate to give you a number out of thin air. You'll determine that, but if it's not reasonable, then a leverage is you call that special meeting, we'll call the media, and we'll bring out stuff that you guys haven't even heard of yet. And I am not exaggerating. So, not against you guys, but about what has been done with your comp plan. You don't know. I do. I'm not exaggerating. So, hopefully you guys can figure it out and do the best. And I think everybody's discussion tonight and heart was in the right place. And I wish we would have had that from him before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan Ducey.
Susan Ducey, 139 Harvest Gate Boulevard, Groveland. Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm here because I've looked at the various packages that are out there, and man, I wish I knew how to be a city manager. If I quit, I can get, wow, that's a lot. I think that what we need to do is follow the contract. We need to give him what he deserves, but the smallest amount that we can do. We have this man who, it's been said that if you give people 30% of what they want, they'll forget the 70%. And I'm not forgetting the 70%. We shouldn't be paying him extra money when he was not giving you all the information you needed as a council to make decisions, where many of his answers were wrong, and that we would find out later, oh yeah, that answer was wrong. Since you have to have the information you need to make an informed decision to do what's best for Groveland, we can't have a city manager who's holding back information that has to be dug up later by residents to find out that, yes, he was wrong in that answer.
back
So
into
we
the
need to
package,
get
okay?
back to the money. That first one that we have here is that we shouldn't be paying him, like rewarding him, but we should give him, he did work here, and I would be for doing what we need to do to see him go. So if you have to, pay him off and be afraid of lawsuits, I don't know. I think that we should look at what's best for Groveland. I don't want to rip him off. He did work here. He has a contract, and I think we need to follow that. So I would be for doing what his contract was, to not reward him for bad behavior. Yes, he did good things, and we have to remember that he did do some good things. So I want to do his contract and have him go. You mentioned that it was 30 days before we got a city manager before, right? So I think we could get somebody possibly right away, and to have the extension. I don't like that, while he doesn't have to work for 6 months and we're giving him all this money. It doesn't seem right to us as the residents of Groveland that he gets so much, but he does need to get what his contract said and what he deserves. But I would like to see that we get a new city manager soon. Thank you.
Missy Frana.
Missy Frana, 205 East Magnolia Street. Our school was here earlier, as we all were aware, and one of their parts of their creed talks about stewardship and community. And it talks about to act fairly, to support one's community, and uphold the best traditions. And I'm here to just encourage you guys to not make a rash decision, that this is a decision that is going to impact many people. And I can speak personally to the impact that my kind has had on Gray Middle School, and the impact that of the community that has benefited from his tutelage. And I hear the word offer, and when someone offers you something, you don't have to accept. And I think that my kind has done amazing things for this community over the last 8 years. And when I look at the people that are seated at this board, I see only one person who has been here the whole time. And so I just would really encourage you to not make this decision lightly. I think that many people in the community will state that Groveland is better because of the impact of my kind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shauna Vaughn.
Good evening. It's nice to see you all. I'm back in the city limits. Aren't you excited? My name is Shauna Vaughn, and my address is protected. It's nice to see you all. I wanted to give a perspective, just a very objective perspective. I'm putting on my professional hat as a performance consultant, a short performance consultant with the microphone face. Okay. What I do for a living is human performance consulting. I'm called in often by CEOs, executive leaders, that sort of breed of person to help identify when people are not performing, why they're not performing, and propose solutions for what might make them do better. Often, managers, directors, CEOs will call me in and say, they need training, they need upskilling. And usually that's not the problem at all. I'm getting to my point. Often it's motivation. Often it's a workplace resource issue. Often it's a workplace cultural problem. I could go on. You mentioned that there are several things leading up to this, and it's that, to me, from my professional lens, sounds to me like there was an ongoing problem, and I'm curious if it was being addressed at all in any sense. Was he offered coaching? When he mentioned that he was going to resign, was there any discussion of could he be coached through what he's going through? Can he benefit from executive coaching? I'm not going to talk about him while he's not here, but I do have some questions for the council. Because the way I see it is there's a fourth option. It's perhaps not a popular one, but it's an option from an objective standpoint. His management style was mentioned. Again, was there any coaching? Did anyone reach out to him and say, hey, if you want to stick around, how can we work together to help you do that? How can we improve our relationship? Whether it's an issue with him and his staff, with him and this council, with him and this community, there are always opportunities, and I would just like to suggest that. He provided an offer to resign, and in my opinion, that is an opportunity where there is a fourth option to not accept his offer and to offer that he have executive coaching if that's what's needed. If you consider termination or resignation, and that is what proceeds, I would recommend from my standpoint that the highest priority should be the city staff. Their morale, their motivation, because that's what's going to tank next, and this city will feel that. So when you're considering how long his term should be, 19 weeks, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 14, 18, 24, whatever it's going to be, it has to be that he comes up with a transition plan and that he helps you execute that plan and helps onboard the next person. I've never seen that done in 6 weeks in my corporate career. I would say 19 weeks, Mike is not doing nothing. He's helping transition this city into its next leadership if that's what you all decide to do. Either way, the resilience of the staff, as it was mentioned, depends on leadership, trust, and continuity of work without unreasonable interruption, and that's what needs to be prioritized. I would expedite the process of backfilling for the staff's sake above all, but don't be too hasty because haste makes waste. Is 19 weeks what his contract says? If so, just honor it and have a nice long runway and a very smooth transition as a result, and we will all benefit from that. Did he provide a transition plan? Again, he won't be doing nothing for those 19 weeks. You should hold him accountable for helping you to bring your next person on. Finally, either way, please avoid a lawsuit because with all due respect to all the attorneys in the room, they're the only ones who win in those kinds of cases.
Thank you.
All for that item. Yes.
That's all for the evening. We'll go back around. Amy Jo, start with you, and then we'll go to Mr. Jaycox and Stephen.
So I just want to say, doing the math between the first two, if we have to wait 2 weeks till a meeting, and then he has 30 days before we could end, that leaves us with approximately 10K in difference, plus the 11K we want him to pay back for the retention bonus. That's $21,000 in difference. That's easily an attorney's fee. And it's messy. So we avoid the hearing, we avoid everything else. I'd really just go with column 1. I do like the idea of shortening that to a shorter term, but outside to 8 weeks, like Stephen said. That's it.
Jaycox?
A contract is a contract. A contract is between two entities. So this contract was entered into by Mr. Hine, and it was entered by the city of Groveland. I really do believe that we should follow the contract. We could be more generous than the termination clause in a settlement agreement with him, but not to the point that he's asking. If you read the first column, Mr. Hine is only going to be available by phone. He's not going to run the day-to-day operation, and he's not coming back to the city hall. He's not coming back to his office. He'll just be available for phone calls. That's it. He's not going to help with a transition with anything. The new city manager, maybe the new city manager would speak to him, maybe he wouldn't. You're holding a lot on the fact that he'll be around until May 26th to help people. It doesn't say in his settlement he's going to help. He just says he'll be available by phone. You're putting a lot on Mike. Now, I'm not saying that Mike would not help. I think personally Mike would help. But you're putting a lot on this. I'd rather start as a basis of negotiation with what was in his contract, what he agreed to twice, not once, twice. He agreed to that contract. He knew what the terms were. But when it came to the point of him leaving, now he's decided to change the terms. He's deciding to rewrite the contract to his benefit and to your deficit. This is your money. It's partly mine as well, but it is the citizen of Groveland's money. We have to think that way. We're the stewards of your money. We have a fiduciary duty to make sure that we don't overpay. And if we overpay this, any manager who comes in there would know if I want to leave, I'll just make a settlement, and it doesn't matter what my contract says. We can write anything we want in the contract. They're just going to give me a settlement. That is a very bad precedent to set. Thank you.
I think we've all seen what Groveland has been years down. Better. I think we've all seen the challenges that Groveland has had. 8 years ago, I've heard things, from some folks, which is fair, that sometimes the staff seemed like they were acting with little oversight. That's the responsibility of the council. And I think the council has changed. I think everybody up here, all 5 of us, care about providing oversight. But none of us up here were here 8 years ago, 10 years ago, even 6 years ago. So I think it's important that we set a new tone and set a new trend. And I get the contract part. If we were to follow the contract, could he sue?
He can sue. I don't know any basis, but that's, he would know, he would have that information. I'm not going to know that information.
That's what we're getting in addition to the contract. So that's what we are getting to help the city, to protect the city, and what value is that to us? I think this is reasonable to get a settlement. And yet, he will only be available by call, and that's important for a transition. If you still allow the chief executive to come in, the staff will still report to the chief executive. That's just how businesses and cities function. So it is important to have a disconnect and only allow certain members to reach out to a previous CEO, or there's not going to be a transition. So I think Mrs. Vaughn's sentiment lined up a lot with what I believe and what I've tried to say. But again, I've only been up here for 2.5 months. So I look to you, I learn from each of you, but I do think it's important that we get this finished tonight. I would hope that everyone supports this motion, and we can take the next steps.
I am concerned, and I will reiterate, I do not care for the May 26th date. While I heard the story of, somebody coming in 30 days, we might not be as fortunate this time, or they might come in tomorrow. I just don't see it as a clean cut. If we find somebody at the end of March, their onboarding starts April 1st. We are paying for the separation by phone. In addition, we are now paying a city manager. I just think that the 26th May date is too far extended.
The motion was for column 1, but instead of May 26th, 8 weeks from today.
If we
That's the
could
motion
get
that's on the table.
clarity too for all of us,
What the date would
because
be.
the vice mayor brings up a good point. What would that 8-week, what date would that give us?
April 15th.
Anita, can you put up the financial numbers that finance gave you, so everybody in the audience can see?
IT has that from DO.
Anita, while they're doing that, could you walk me through what a day would look like with number 1 by him being available by phone? John Doe is in the position, acting right now. What would a day look like for John Doe and Mike Hine?
I think the person who's sitting as interim or departments, if they need information, could contact him. So, for example, what was his strategy with working with the county on the transfer of the South Lake Regional Park to the Live Well Foundation? What was his strategy on future utility projects? There are many items that he's working on that maybe he has not shared all the details with his staff and has been working on and pursuing the hospital and such. He's available to answer those questions and give his thoughts on how he was pursuing something in his capacity as manager.
Are there any loopholes where he may not answer those questions? Do we have any, what's the word I want to say? Do we have any recourse or whatever?
It would be a breach of the settlement agreement if he did not respond to the phone calls.
I just don't like the May 26th date because, again, he's there.
Would you say April 8th?
The transition plan, but in addition to that, if John Doe comes in, now we're paying for both. And I personally don't care for the May 26th date.
Yes, ma'am. The motion on the table would take it to April 15th instead. It would reduce it.
I'd just like everybody to be able to see this and know what the difference between the two options are.
Are we able to do that? Are they able to
Let me go
put
see
that
the
up?
form.
Looking for?
Okay, so as you can see, the total cost for his settlement is $151,507. In the contract.
That's also not the motion that's on the table.
Okay, so if you look down at the termination without reason, it's $81,378. Now, from that $81,000, you would also have to subtract the $15,000 for repayment of the partial of the bonus, and that would equal $66,378. So the difference between those two numbers is $85,129. I don't think that number is justifiable. If that number was half, maybe I would think it's justifiable. And I really don't think that we should be throwing a motion out there just to, eliminate a couple weeks. We should give the attorney the ability to negotiate with him. We should, and then come back to the council with a negotiation. I don't think we should limit the lawyer's ability to negotiate and just go straight with a motion that says we'll reduce it by this. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second.
I would just update that the motion isn't technically one, it's one with the 14 weeks updating to 8 weeks.
Which makes it $40,073.80.
Doesn't cut it in half, but it takes 30-some thousand off of the number.
Note the rest is on there anyway.
Okay,
So the motion is 8 weeks?
8 weeks.
8 weeks.
Okay. 8 weeks. So we have a motion, we have a second, no further
19
discussion.
weeks, he gets no matter what.
No further discussion. The date.
Date, April 15th.
April 15th
April
is 8
15th.
weeks from today.
8 weeks from today.
Okay, we have April 15th on the motion. We have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and take the roll, please.
Councilmember Sholkowski, how do you vote?
Yeah.
New motion.
That was the original motion,
That's the
sir.
original motion.
No, it's always been with a reduction to 8 weeks. It's the same motion, Your Mayor.
Originally, I did make the motion for 8 weeks, and I think Amy Jo seconded it.
Okay, so we're on track with motion and second. Any further discussion you can bring back at public comment? Okay, so let's go ahead and take the...
Councilmember Sholkowski, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaycox?
Nay.
Vice Mayor Gaines?
No.
Mayor Kehoe?
Sorry, let's get this off the thing. Yay, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Okay, on to the next item on the agenda, which is the appointment of a interim manager.
Or changed. The other one,
Appointment of interim manager.
the other one is 80. It's a $40,000 difference between the two.
Do we take a minute break?
Do we need another break? Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. 5 minutes after 10. Okay, moving on to item 2, or item 4 on the agenda, appointment of an interim city manager. We have a vacancy now, accepting the resignation of our former manager, and we need an interim manager. Our interim manager will understand that it's a short-term process. There may be some things along the way that we'll talk about at the workshop on Thursday when we have more time to get into the pluses and minuses. But tonight we need to have somebody to be the interim manager through at least that meeting, and we'll determine then beyond. So, interim manager discussion, Ms. Amy Jo.
Oh, you're going to have me lead off? That's wild. I have a list. All right. I think for interim city manager, I have thought about it a lot. And I've talked to a lot of city employees, and I've talked to a lot of constituents, and I've bounced ideas off a ton of people. And I'm just going to give you my short list, and you guys can talk about them.
We'll write them down as you say them.
Yeah, here you go. Chief Kevin Carroll. He'll hold people accountable. He's fiscally conservative, and he gets stuff done. Jenny Wright. Been in government forever. She knows the ins and outs of government. Also, I know she looks sweet and innocent, but she's tough, and she won't take anybody's nonsense. And Mike Walker. Again, collaborative is a word I heard from, I think, all of his other department heads. So, and again, I believe he'll hold people accountable and checking his budget line items, fiscally conservative. And those are the things that I feel like are really important, is holding people accountable, being fiscally conservative, and being collaborative, because as interim, at some point, you're taking someone who's an equal and making them above and then putting them back as an equal later. It's an awkward situation for anyone. So we want someone who's gonna work collaboratively. So that's my short list.
Okay, Mr. J. Cox.
I did not get to speak to a whole bunch of people about this, as Amy did. Amy, who was your second choice?
Jenny.
Okay.
Jenny Wright.
That's what I thought. Okay. Right now, the only person that I would really bring forward would be Tim Maslow.
I had a very similar list as Amy Jo. I did not have Ginny on it, but I love that option too. But Mike Walker, I have worked with a ton in the past. He is very front-facing in the community because he's Parks and Rec Director. I think he would be comfortable going back into his position. But speaking in the community, he has the connections with the businesses because he's constantly asking them for money for our events. He has the connections with the nonprofits. He has run, obviously, our Parks and Rec department that continues to grow. And then I've always heard great things about his time in Brooksville also. And their mayor is always asking about stealing him. So I'd be happy with Mike Walker as the interim. And I believe and just for clarification, the interim is signing checks, doing different, basically keeping the organization steady as we do our search and select a permanent replacement.
Yes, that would be correct.
Vice Mayor?
Facebook can be a good thing and a bad thing. So one of the bad things that I picked up from Facebook is listen, okay? Listen. My suggestion is Tim Maslow, and I am going to provide you with the reasons that I think Tim should be the one in the interim position. Because we're at a point now where leadership continuity matters. We must have continuity. And right now, we have an immediate operational need, and it is up to all of us to fill it responsibly. The pool of available candidates that we have is limited. And even within those limits, we have identified someone who can stabilize the organization while we continue to move forward. To the community, we hear you, or I hear you. I think we all hear you, okay? But Tim is, in my opinion, the best fit for right now. We all know that community trust matters, especially in this interim period. And if I was in school, I would tell you all, say interim. I would have you engage and say interim. But this is a temporary appointment right now, and we need to maintain continuity. The interim role allows for the city to function, to continue to function, while we prepare for a full competitive hiring process. Tim brings familiarity with the operations, with staff, as well as the community. And he can step in right now without a learning curve. But that doesn't mean that he's exempt from standards because he is an interim. We would expect, or I would expect Tim to lead with the same expectations that we would have as though we had a full-time acting person in there. I want to assure you all that I believe that we will conduct a full, open, fair, and balanced competitive search for the permanent director. And we will do it with clarity and unity. This decision is about stability, continuity, and keeping the city moving. And right now, I believe that we have to choose the strongest option that is available to us as we work towards the leadership that we need tomorrow. And it is for that reason I am recommending Tim Maslow. Now, before I go, I know there's some people out there going, look what Tim did, what? No, we got to keep it moving. We have to learn from our mistakes. We have to acknowledge our mistakes. None of us is as smart as all of us. So let's do what's best for the city. And that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I took a different approach, and I appreciate all those comments. But as I go down the list that has been recommended, we have Mike Walker, outstanding person, but is going to open the biggest park and the biggest operation that we've opened in I think our history pretty soon in March. And we've just heard what happens when we pull people out, you know, and I think that regional park has to open on time, and has to open right. And to pull him out would be a disservice. I think that Jenny is great, but Jenny just lost her second in command. And we have, I'm sorry, but we have nobody to put in that spot. If you took over, we collapse in that department. I know Travis is excellent, but it's more than a one-person thing. Michelle, as we heard tonight, is absolutely drowning in the finance, trying to get the finance straightened out. To pull Michelle out would be a disservice to her and to our people. Tim has been filling in for Mike on every vacation, on everything. We will, again, not hit the learning curve. This is not a permanent situation. I think for the benefit of the city, making sure that the other people are in place and moving forward on these major projects is very important, and maybe that's selfishness on my part, but I think we ought to protect these things that we're doing right now. On Tuesday, on Wednesday or Thursday, when we have our, Thursday, when we have our workshop, I have talked to other people. I've talked to people from Tallahassee. I've talked to people that used to be in Tallahassee. We're going to talk about what the steps should be to move forward. The one thing that has stuck in my mind, is not the only thing I was told, but it's really grasped me, was that we're not going to get the person for the long term that's going to come in here with a visionary that is going to be able to organize things and move the whole strategic plan forward and all the way down through the staff with a different organization, a different structure. Then because the people that are out there that we want will not come into a business or a city that's in flux. And there are specialists out there that we can bring in as interim, and we'll talk about it, to work with this young man and to make sure that we're getting the information back on where we are, which gives us with a time, again, not to get the first person, not to get the second person, but really get the person that's going to take us for the next 10 years. If the comp plan says we're going to be 35,000 in 2035, 58,000 in 2040, was that right? And that's what we need to be thinking, not what happened, but what does this city need in order to make those milestones without jeopardizing everybody's traffic flow and everything else. And we've always been reactionary instead of proactive, and that's going to take a special person. So on Thursday, I would like to bring this back to the table at that for the discussion, so all of us can step in. But right now, I really would have to go with Tim, because he's been there, and there's some stability there, and we have too many other things that are critical right now that we're trying to fix, that we can't pull people out.
My only counter to that is, and I've talked with Tim, I think Tim is a great management member for our city. We have a brand new CRA manager, so he's still handling the CRA. Communications was just put under Tim recently, and then we're trying to get past the Palisades issue. So I think it does make sense to bring in someone who has not been involved with that is able to be a kind of fair arbiter within the staff. And this is a temporary position. So that's why I favor Mike Walker. It doesn't have to be, a unanimous vote, obviously. And if my motion for Mike doesn't go through, I'm, fine with, Tim serving in the role. But I would just make the motion to appoint Mike Walker as the interim city manager.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion needed? Let's take the roll.
I think we have to do public comment.
Input.
Just one.
Seeing-
Jan Eastridge.
And Eastridge, my address is protected. So we're talking about being proactive. You guys are trying to put in somebody who just walked us into the Palisades debacle. You're also trying to put somebody in who can't get his employees to show up to work. You know they all live out in Winter Park? Ask him when was the last time he had a full staff in-house. It doesn't sound like accountability to me. It doesn't sound like somebody that can make somebody come to work. Mike Walker is a good option, except you need somebody that can walk away from their department right now, and their department keeps running. Mike Walker would be a perfect candidate if it was after the opening. The only department head where they could walk away, they have the faith and the trust of the community, is Chief Carroll. He doesn't have the faith of the community. Sorry, he just doesn't. We're facing a lawsuit because they couldn't figure out crayon marks. And you guys are trying to ask the citizens to go ahead and trust that judgment? Absolutely not. You're also trying to get the citizens to trust that he's going to make everybody show up to work, but he can't get a small group of people to show up to work. They all work from home because Winter Park's too far to come. So I implore you, while I think that Tim is a nice guy, I think Tim is very knowledgeable. Yes, he has been playing interim while Mike's on vacation. I think there needs to be further discussion because that's not the right answer. Thank you.
There's no further discussion from the public. Let's go ahead and take the vote.
I think Bob had something.
You have public comment. Is this for this particular?
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
I'm going to just be real quick here. First, we have a difficult situation, right? I was divorced 26 years ago. Who suffered? The kids, right? That's what always happens. We've got to figure out a good way to move forward here. I've worked with Mike, with Tim. I've worked, with pretty much all the staff. I think Mike Walker would really be the right choice in this particular case, basically from the standpoint of, yes, he's coming into a big finish, but I think he knows something about coming in at clinch moments and being able to pull off a transition. That's not disputing anything with anyone else, but I think Mike would be the better choice, in my personal opinion in here. I think he's got a good rapport, not that anyone else doesn't, but his task is nearly finished. I don't think we're going to find a city manager quickly, my personal opinion. So we're going to need somebody that can transition a little bit longer. Not that Chief Carroll wouldn't be a good candidate also. And I'm going to break rule here for just a minute and just say, I'm really grateful that we were able to settle out tonight with a fair compromise with Mr. Hine as well. We've got to move forward. We've got to think about the kids. Here I'm 26 years later from having been divorced, and we've got to bring harmony, and we've got to work on who we are now. Irreconcilable differences happen, but now we're in a place we have an opportunity to move forward in a peaceful way. Whoever you choose is going to be your choice. You're the city leaders, but I think we're going to need to look longer than 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 3 months. We could be 5 or 6 months. And I think Mike has shown a good job at doing that. Again, no distraction from Tim or anyone else, but I think Tim's got a lot on his plate right now. We got the whole EAR coming up. There's a lot of fixes that need to come into place. TJ wasn't mentioned, but man, we got a lot of work to do. I'm going to come back later and talk to council about some of the issues I'm seeing now on the outside. Being not on the city side, but now working with people trying to bring business in here and how we need to do some things. And another subject, again, I'm going to cut myself off. But anyways, just my opinion, but I want to thank you guys and gals for taking a cleanest road we could with Mr. Hine. I think he did us a great service for the interim he served. It's time to switch. That's what has been decided. So thank you for at least doing that honorably. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's all. So we have, has anybody talked to Mike Walker?
I
have.
So full transparency, I reached out to the team and I asked for all of the resumes, for all of the direct reports to Hine. And then I reviewed them, and then I made sure that he was capable, because that was a question I had, was the South Lake Regional Park. I did hear it may be moving a little bit, but maybe hopefully opening soon, but I don't have any doubt that Mike would be able to handle that and step in the interim basis, or I wouldn't have, put forward his name.
Okay. But has Mike, well, let's get on to the vote.
I mean, I know TJ's name just came up, and I want to say to everyone, I did consider TJ, but he has a lot going on with water treatment plants and sewer. That would be really unfair to pull him off of that. I do, one of the biggest reasons for me for offering Chief Carroll, he can walk away from his department. He has great leadership behind him. Not that he's not necessary, but he can. He can leave his guys.
You gave the mayor an idea.
He can walk over and take over. He also has 37 years of experience. He's run departments of up to 300 people. He has experience doing things. And also just more kudos to TJ. He did go to school to be a city manager, so throw that out there. But he's busy. Really, really busy.
And TJ just was on my list, but I went off of Amy Jo when she named her 3.
Yeah, there you go. We got
Well,
there.
Mike has 15 million and he has 115 million of projects going right now, so. Yeah.
That is true.
So, okay, we have a vote on the board for Mr. Walker. So we can go ahead and take the roll.
Councilmember Solkowski.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Jay Cox.
Nay.
Vice Mayor Gaines.
Nay.
Mayor Kehoe.
Nay. I'm sorry, but he's got to be on that project.
I'd like to advance a motion for Tim Maslow.
Okay. We have a motion for Tim Maslow. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, go ahead and take the vote.
Councilmember Jay Cox, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gaines.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Nay.
Councilmember Solkowski.
Nay.
Mayor Kehoe.
Aye. So passed.
Okay. We finished at 10:30. Well, not quite. We're not
Next
there yet.
item on
Still
the
have
agenda.
reports.
I know. Oh.
Next item, I think, is public input, right?
Oh, yeah. I thought we were going to be here till 2 a.m. though, so I'm still feeling good. It's only 10:30.
Item on the agenda, public input. We have public input.
Tim Laux.
I have to go potty again.
Bring it down. Let's bring it
Thank you,
down.
Jenny, for waking me up. I'm just taking a nap back there. Tim Laux, 623 Neptune Drive, Groveland. What I was going to say earlier that I wasn't have the opportunity to say is that again, you had a challenging decision tonight, and you still got a challenging decision because you don't know if Mr. Hines is going to accept that or not. And in which case, it's going to bring you back to the other 2 options. One is with cause and one's without cause. This is something to keep in mind on that. The other thing I wanted to bring your attention as you search for new city manager, it's recognized that Groveland's manager council form of government presents structural challenges all the way across the board. Most cities are operated this way, and they are very, very hard to work in. Under the system, you have an elected mayor and 4 council members who possess the limited authority of the daily operations. Basically, you don't have any authority other than to run the meeting, call states of emergencies, and hire and fire city manager. Other than that, you don't have any. It's that simple. City manager should be staffed to provide the mayor and council with accurate, timely, and factual information is required to support the critical decisions that affect all of us, every single one of the residents here. You know, you're talking about the severance package and so forth and so on. Remember one thing, that's not your money, that's taxpayers' money. We got people that work hard and pay taxes every single year to this city, and you're spending their money. So remember, it's not your money, nor is it the city managers or staff's money, it's the taxpayers' money. That's something that seems to have been forgotten for a lot of years here. What's happened is the current council prioritized transparency, accountability, and physical responsibility. They requested comprehensive factual reporting and demanded full accountability of the taxpayers' funds and sought uncensored information from the city manager and staff. Again, the result was very simple. The city manager didn't want to play well with others, so he resigned. And now we're stepping on rose petals, trying to make sure that he's very happy when he leaves. And that's fine. But again, you're spending taxpayers' money. Personally, I would have handled this completely different. And I have handled it completely different. It was quite effective. Just want to point out the fact that we're now left with, I know you use the word approximately because I don't know the exact figure, $100 million in debt. We've got outstanding bills. We got commitments to developers for millions of dollars worth of economic incentives. So the work, Mr. Hine has done some very good work in Groveland, but he was out of hand. He had no accountability whatsoever to the people. I'm just going to give you a few examples that I wrote down. Again, $100 million in debt to benefit new development nobody wants. The result, unprecedented utility rate increases to existing customers required to generate the revenue sufficient to pay back the loan. Millions of dollars of tax and property tax incentives afforded a failed major corporation as economic incentives, all while the average citizen endured 7 consecutive years of property tax increases. Don't know that that's fair to the people. We borrowed $10 million at around 3% interest, and we loaned that to the state of Florida at 0% interest to expedite construction of the Highway 50 bypass. The result, the effort failed, costing taxpayers in Groveland several $100,000 in interest payments. And the list goes on, but I've only got 45 seconds, so I'm not going to go any further. I can suggest is be extremely careful in the contract negotiations and who you hire, because your council today, come November, you might have a different council. When they're elected 4 years later, you might have a different council. City manager needs to be flexible enough to work with that and work with the people. Again, every single one of you and every single person in City Hall, fire department, police department will work for the citizens. We pay the bills. And that's been forgotten in this city, long forgotten, and it needs to be remembered. Because quite honestly, I'm getting very tired of it. I'm getting very tired of paying exorbitant bills for no reason and not getting any benefit from them. Mayor, thank you, and good luck to you folks.
Thank you very much.
Chris Walker.
Mayor, Councilman Chris Walker, 304 Irvin Bend Drive. Just had a few questions. I am in agreement with Mr. Jay Cox on the fact that contracts are a contract. I've been a realtor for 9.5 years, and basically, the contract is the contract. Yes, you can negotiate, but I want this council to remember that all of you were elected to make sure that our tax dollars are protected and that we're not wasting money and that we're not held hostage because we like somebody. I get it. There's a few people that love Mr. Hine, great personality, all that. But we're not talking about his personality. We're talking about a contract and the fact that someone not only presented a letter of resignation, I don't even know why we're discussing whether he resigned or didn't resign, when he wrote a letter and it's been posted all over Facebook that he resigned. And so if he resigned, there's not a lot of negotiation that needs to take place other than what is in the contract. I do want to ask a question. Are we actually $100 million in debt?
I don't believe so. I think that's what if we go ahead and take out all the money, is TJ still here for the plant? We have grants. Can you answer that question?
Yeah. 10 years ago, I stood at this podium to ask why we are paying our city manager, our city attorney, our building inspector so much money for a little town. Groveland has higher salaries than the biggest city in Lake County, which is Claremont. Why? Perhaps if we didn't pay big salaries, we could have a good water system, another grocery store, a community gym, instead of giving $80,000 to a local church. For them to be having the ability to walk out of the clause anytime that they get ready. I questioned the contract with Kroger's and why we didn't have protections as a city to make sure we wasn't left holding the bag instead of giving away millions in tax incentives. But in return, the citizens got more taxes. We have a city attorney, apparently that is a city attorney, but she didn't do that contract correctly to protect us from being left held with the bag. Orlando city manager gets paid $186,000. Why are we paying close to $300K to Mr. Hines with incentives, a car, he gets to live where he wants? City attorney of Orlando, $156,000. Anybody know how much we're paying our attorney? To not fight lawsuits, but to turn it over to other attorneys where we pay more money? Anybody know that? Why we still, after 10, 15 years, are still paying other people legal fees? Our police chief in Orlando is $124,000 to $146,000. Orlando building inspector is $112,000. Ours is $1.5 million to $2 million. Why? The greatest thing that you could do for the citizens of Groveland is to do a cost assessment of every department and every high-priced salary that you're paying, because it's absolutely ridiculous that we're paying all this money for this little town and we still have one grocery store. I think we need to do a better job as elected officials on looking at every department and make sure that the next city manager is being paid what they're worth, but also what the city can handle, and let's not give it away. Mr. Hines left Tucson, Arizona in $30 million in debt. And I brought that to this council's attention, but we hired him anyway, because that's what we do in Groveland. We just give the money away, and we tell the citizens, we don't need to hear you after we're elected. Mayor, I yield my time.
Thank you. If I could just, I would like to address one thing. It's just for the record, because we are on TV. Kroger's, 100% of what Kroger got for tax credits, for incentives, it was $1.4 million, has now been paid back as of the 31st of January. That was, don't look at our city attorney, that was the county that negotiated that, and they did a very good job. And right now, you know, we can say how sorry we are they're going. I'm sorry for the employees that got displaced, but now they're paying 100% of the property taxes instead of 40, even though it's empty. So the contract kept us whole and then some. So I just want I don't want to conflict with all the reporting that's been in the papers and everything. I want to make sure that we straighten that out.
Gregory Ducey.
Verify that contract.
Anita verified it. It was written by another group, but between them, and I've complimented at this meeting how that contract is one of the best ones I've ever seen, because we got whole at the end of the situation.
I was going to say good evening, but I think it's good night.
Good morning.
My name is Gregory Ducey. I live at 139 Harvest Gate Boulevard, Groveland, Florida. Much of what I'm going to say is for public record in regard to the 2025-11 and 2025-12, but it is more of in a general sense. A memo dated February 2nd,
2026, from Brett Jones to the City Attorney of Groveland, Florida. In the background section states, quote, "The research addressed a scenario which is applicant obtained approval from the Planning and Zoning Board and 2 City Council approvals. No appeal was applied during that application period, and the city later asserted a procedure defect, specifically a failure to provide mailed notices to neighbors within 500 feet. Brett Jones is still giving wrong information. Note, the City Council approved the second reading on August 18th, 2025. A party has 30 days to appeal the council's decision per state law 163.3187(5)(c) and 163.3184(5)(a), which means that the September 17th would be the end of the appeal time. On August 27th, 2025, a written appeal was submitted on August 28th to the city clerk, city manager, city attorney, elected officials about the procedure problem. On September 4th, 2025, the city manager sent an email acknowledging receipt of our appeal and that he was reviewing the circumstances. On September 5th, 2025, an email to the mayor, vice mayor, city council, city clerk, city attorney, city manager, to thank the city manager for his September 4th email. On September 10th, 2025, the city attorney stated, part of this was, the city is in receipt of the documentation and information provided to support your allegations of improper notification of the property owners within 500 feet of the Palisades issue and voted on August 18th. As well as she stated, therefore, new public hearings will be noticed and held. The appeal and the city agreement to redo the entire process was done before September 17th, the deadline. Brett Jones pulled the item after the December 1st, 2025 reading, so Brett Jones stopped the process before it got finished. Further, it's my understanding that the 2025-11 and 2025 has been filed with the Lake County Public Records. If it was filed, which is not my understanding, who did the filing? When was it done? If it was done, it should not have been. Who did it? The city manager? Planning and zoning? Brett Jones, the city attorney? I don't actually know, but I think we should find out and resolve the misinformation within Lake County. Also, what an ordinance states is important. 2025-11 stated, amending the future land use plan designation from Lake County rural transition to the City of Groveland established neighborhood on the future land use map. As a retired software engineer, in my opinion, since there is no Lake County rural designation on the future land use map, it should not be changed. If the source is not correct, it is not good at all. Who's doing the stuff to Groveland behind the city council's back? Has this type of thing occurred before with other city council items? How many incorrect items are brought up? Is this why the people in the community do not think the city government cares for the people of Groveland? We need to be sure that what is done is true, complete, and valid. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan Ducey.
Susan Ducey, 139 Harvest Gate Boulevard, Groveland, Florida. And I know that we've had some differences, and we've talked with each other about what's been happening in the city, not just with what's happening with Palisades and how it should have never really started, but just in general, because I do have concerns, because we've tried to invite people to come to these meetings and they won't come because they said that, you know, it won't do any good, that they've tried to deal with the city before, and it doesn't do any good. And so we have a good name that we're going to have to bring back. And we need to make it a city where people don't just accidentally come, which I accidentally came. There's a house, I like the house, I bought the house. But what I'd like to see is that people are saying, where do you want to live? I want to live in Groveland, because it's a place where people care about the city, where you can go to the council meeting and they'll actually listen. And I feel that right now, we are getting listened to. Obviously, everybody can't get exactly what we want. It's never going to happen in a group of people. But I think that the city council here wants to make Groveland a good place to live. But we have a lot of dirty laundry we need to wash up. And we're not going to do it by ignoring it. And so I hope that as we move on, as we try to clean up, that we can make Groveland a good place to live, that things are not going to be held up. Things are not going to be given to you in halves. They're not going to be held back and you vote on it, and you don't have all the information. So we need to make sure that people that are in committees, people that are in the city, that are telling you things are giving you accurate information. And I think that you want it. From hearing the questions that you have, I think you're interested in knowing what's happening. And so I appreciate that. I just want you to know that I know that it's a hard position to be in. You don't always vote the way I want, but, you know, there's people out here that are going to say the same thing. But as long as you're really working to help Groveland, you want to make Groveland a better place, you want to respond properly to the people, and you want to listen to our concerns, I have your back. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Helfrich.
Farmer Banks Helfrich. I live in the Clay Road District, South Lake County. Farm tip of the day. 2 weeks ago, the freeze came, pretty much killed everything. Hold your horses, it didn't kill everything, because wait about a month. Don't cut anything back. Right now, the plants are really stressed out. And wait to see what comes back. A lot of them will come back, but do not trim them now, because they'll stress them more, and they more than likely will die. Mayor, council, distinguished guests, Heidi, pig farmer, spent 4 years and thousands of dollars attempting to get a conditional use permit from Lake County. She was approved by the United States Department of Agriculture. She was approved by the Florida Department of Agriculture and Services. It was Lake County that she had her issue with. I heard her tell this story, and I took her aside and I said, Heidi, let's find a way to navigate through government together. First thing we did was get on the phone with County Commissioner Parks. 17 minutes on the phone. We realized to go even further. I reached out to a friend of mine, a lawyer, works within government, works within land use, and he referred Heidi to Meg at the Planning and Zoning Department in Lake County. Heidi took a trip up to Tavares, filled out the paperwork. She paid the fee, and in July, she was put on the agenda for the Planning and Zoning Board. She presented her case. She had some of her detractors who stood up, her neighbors who did not want this to happen. Granted, she lives in the Green Swamp, 20 acres. It is zoned to agriculture. I stood up as a supporter and spoke in favor of this regenerative farming for which she does. She was approved 4-1. The next month, which was August of last year, went on to the Board of County Commissioners. Again, she spoke and presented. Again, there was slight opposition. And lastly, I stood up again with a couple other people in support. It was approved unanimously 4-0. Now, Heidi has a conditional use permit to raise her pigs in a regenerative way. It's in sand pits rather than mud pits. She can humanely process that meat on property. She can go ahead and cure it and prepare it on property, and she can actually serve it to her customers as well. This is a seed to solution success story, and this is what I do very well. I help people get through and navigate through the intricacies of government, from federal to state to local municipalities to even county. My mom always said, use honey, not vinegar. So I reach across and I ask people, and when you use honey, you usually get things done. I am Farmer Banks Helfrich, advocate for South Lake County, candidate for State House District 25. May you all be blessed. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Farmer Banks, I always planted my corn after the first full moon in February. It was on the 1st. Am I okay to plant my corn? Is it going to be freezing again?
No, no more freezing. My words to God.
Put that on the record. Put that on the record, okay?
Keith Breedlove.
Keith Breedlove, 154 Balmy Coast Road. Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and Council, I want to talk at this meeting about decorum at these meetings. I believe that a T-shirt being worn, again, violates the spirit, if not the law, of expectations of decorum at these meetings. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a prude. I was in the Army. I know a bunch of four-letter words, how to spell them, how to use them. I'm multilingual, so I can say them a whole bunch of different ways. In this specific case, dropping the vowels still leaves it understandable as a vulgarity. Anyone who does crossword puzzles knows that. If you insert an E into the second position of the first word on that shirt, you get a Gaelic vulgarity. If you insert an I, it's a German vulgarity. Hebrew has no vowels, so those three letters may be a vulgarity. While some may think it's cute, I believe it violates the spirit of our decorum rules, and I ask, please, that this be avoided in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, that's it on public input. We'll go on to board reports. We'll start with Amy Jo.
Okay. All right, I'm trying to be quick. I had two things. First, can we get a consensus to find out how to, or if it's within council's power to cancel our communications contract, or if that's something that staff has to do and we just have to grin and bear it with our contractor. So can we get a consensus? To find out what if that's within our power or not, essentially.
Yes. We can approve the budget, we can't approve the...
Which contractor they use.
So, I mean,
Great.
I think we're going to talk a lot about that organizational structure on Thursday for sure.
So it's coming? Awesome. Then I'm going to move forward and let that one go for now. Because something came up during this meeting when I said Chief Carroll can walk away from his department. I strongly believe that good leaders should be able to walk away from their department temporarily and have it run smoothly. If you're not training your staff to be able to step into your shoes as needed and cross-training people so they can cover people, I'm just going to say, high-quality leaders do that. And I'll leave it at that.
Good, thank you. Mr. J. Cox?
My first question is to Anita. Anita, can I ask for a consensus for the board to give you the ability to negotiate if the offer that we passed in resolution is not accepted? Is that something that we could do?
We could, but on the other hand, we're meeting on Thursday, so we should have an ability to address it on Thursday.
Okay, if you feel it'll be addressed on Thursday, then,
yeah,
then I can leave it at that.
And then we bring it back to everybody.
That's the
okay?
only question. That was the only
Is that all right?
Yep.
Do we, For the agenda for do we know what the firm agenda is for Thursday? Is it?
It's 2 items. It's the budget review of our utilities, including the enterprise fund that wasn't covered at the last budget review. And then the rest is about path forward on who we're going to get for how we're going to go about getting our search firm and the whole 9 yards. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that I want to ambush you on that. I want you to get.
Is it okay if they start reaching out to get bids so that we have at least some numbers by Thursday that we can start working from?
Bids on
the process, because I know we've used a firm before for a city manager. I don't know if the staff has already started looking at what companies we could get, but I don't know if I need consensus, but it might be smart to at least start getting bids for that for Thursday. So if I can get consensus. City manager consensus, the city manager selection process.
Right, for a firm.
For a firm.
Yes, yes. We got consensus on that?
That's it.
I attended the Black History Month, Remember the Titans. This week I have a couple speaking engagements on Black history, one at a school and one in Mascot. I also attended the mayor's huddle for the Green Valley area, and we won't meet again, will we, before February's over? Yes, no, yes?
Workshop on Thursday, but that's it.
That's it, okay. And I too have a huddle, but I have to defer to Miss Ashley to tell me the date.
February 25th from.
So it's not going to be at Waterside this time. It's going to be at Groveland Elementary School. So be there or be square. All right, thank you.
Okay, I have a few things. Tomorrow here in this building, 4:30 to 7, we have the open house for FDOT that is going over the bypass to answer all of our questions. Everybody that's interested in the funding and the timeline and what it's going to look like, please show up there. They put a very good presentation together. I think the video is already online from what I've seen, but it looks pretty good. I did want to bring up that we did modify the agenda as we just talked about. We'll be receiving in the very near future, probably tomorrow morning, I'm sending out a job description for a position that I'd like to bring up on Thursday for discussion, and I want to get this to you before, but it's called an Operational Transition Reviewer position that could assist in. We heard tonight there was some issues with language between business and which we're all familiar with and the government, and we'll have a resume for you to look at, but really to have somebody here that would liaise between the departments and the council on the transition. And so we'll talk about that on Thursday. Coffee, we had a coffee with the principals, and Missy was here just a little while ago. A great concept that I hope all of you can take a look at, where now we're getting into each high school and having the parents come in the morning to have coffee with the principals to tell you what's going on and what their improvements are and all that. We're working with hopefully South Lake TV to broadcast that, so other parents that can't be there could be there, but please keep an eye out for the other schools, and maybe you'd want to go in and just take a look at what that is. Also attended, I'd like to thank Parks, they're not here, Parks and Rec, for the great job on the Chinese Lunar New Year function and also the Black History Kickoff. The movie was outstanding. We had very little turnout. We're going to have to work on how we're going to market things a little differently so that we get the turnout for those issues. On the Palisades issue, I've contacted the attorney for Brent Jones, and I've asked our attorney to get us some names. We want to take a third party, bring a third party in to review the whole thing. We've got 2 separate camps, and we need an unbiased third party to take a look and just go through all that information and give us a path that maybe we could consider, rather than getting into court and starting that at that time.
Do we need consensus for that? Because I think that's a very good idea. Is that
Yes.
already moving, or
Make a motion, I can't.
That'd be helpful, Mr. Mayor.
Consensus would be helpful,
Yeah, if we
please.
could, just getting consensus to bring in a third-party attorney to give us advice, since we are dealing with 2 different sides, and give us kind of an objective third-party opinion.
Agreed. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's consensus. Mr. Maslow?
Thank you.
Please.
We'll move forward with that.
Last thing is, I'd really like to get something back from the group, from staff. Where are we on the ethics committee? I know we added somebody. Do we have a timeline? Do we have a schedule? Have all those people been notified? I'd really like to understand, because June was the sunset, so we really don't want to wait too long to get that thing going. And that concludes my report. I'll go on to the manager's report. You got anything to say?
In the last few minutes.
I've listened quite a bit tonight. It's really a pivotal moment. I prepared some remarks. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to read them. I recognize the fact that it was a 3-2 split vote. Obviously, if you're in my position, you'd like to get all 5 votes to make sure everybody's confident. But that's okay. I appreciate the diverse opinions in terms of other nominations for the position. Especially Jenny, if you've ever been on the other side of the phone when you're late on the agenda item, getting it ready for council, and you've taken the wrath from Jenny on that, I could appreciate that nomination on Jenny. Mike as well. I will be calling Mike. I think it would be prudent to have a backup to me should I be out of town. And I think I've mentioned to several of you before, I would have the utmost confidence in Mike Walker for the city. Transparent, easy to work with, collaborative. He's done a lot for the city, and I'm appreciative of that. Also want to mention my appreciation for Mike Hine. He's done quite a bit for the city. I know there's a diverse level of opinions and perspective changes based on who you speak with. But I want to recognize his service and everything he's done for us. I think Chief Ramsey's really the only person on senior staff that has been here before Mike. He's really been responsible for bringing myself and the rest of our senior staff on. And I think the diversity of opinions in terms of who could step into that role is a testament to Mike's character and who he selected to work here at the city. When you look at people like Jenny, when you look at people like Mike Walker, TJ Fish, really you go down the list of all of our senior staff. Kevin Carroll, I remember being on the selection committee to bring in a new fire chief. Almost thankful that he's not. We would have an interesting first staff meeting with Chief, but no. Again, this is beyond an individual. This is really a group effort. And again, this is a pivotal moment for us to work together to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, not only for the people up here at the dais, our staff need that consistent leadership, and our residents deserve that. I appreciate the diversity of opinions from our residents. I take that as a challenge to demonstrate that not only myself, but our senior staff, we're on standby, we're ready to move the city in the right direction. My relationships with all of you, I value. I've worked with the mayor and a staff liaison chair relationship since going back in 2019. We worked together on the Planning and Zoning Board where we adopted an all-new future land use and community development code for the city. Joint planning agreement with Lake County to recognize our rural character, preserving conservation and agriculture, at least 50% of the city. Strategic planning committee. We have a strategic plan for the city. We're underway with a 3-year review. We're knee deep in that. There's a lot more updates to come. Our comprehensive plan. expanding beyond our future land use, but assessing our maps to make sure that they're accurate for the public. They deserve that. And then also having a conversation in terms of levels of service. That's something that's far beyond just my department, but that's public safety, that's transportation, that's parks. It's really up and down the line with all of our departments have to be involved in that. And we're excited to deliver something that's truly innovative for the city. So I want to thank you all. I'm going to work as hard as possible with our staff to serve you all in this interim basis, to make sure that we fill in the right positions, whether it be finance, communications, a permanent city manager role. You have my commitment, and I think I speak for on behalf of senior staff to make sure that we deliver for all of you. Just a nuance to go over. I recognize that we have the workshop on Thursday. The agenda that Ginny did send out, I just wanted to go over that to make sure we're all on the same page. And if there are any changes, we just discuss that as a council and we get consensus. If there is consensus to make changes, I believe, Jenny, you could probably send out a revised agenda by tomorrow, just to make sure everyone is aware of what that agenda looks like. Right now, I'm just going to read what the agenda is so far. So number 1 is selection process for city manager from 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Second is city attorney. I know, 30 minutes. Might scratch your head on that. City attorney contract from 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Wait a minute, Tim, that's not what we went over, right? I pulled that just so we could have the time for the 2 items. I don't know how this has got messed up since the conversation, but I really think that the 2 items that we need is the city manager and find out about the enterprise fund and all that. But we can bring some of that other stuff back. And we will talk about how many more workshops we're going to need, if 1 a month is going to be sufficient, as we need to straighten some things out.
We'll need a consensus of council, though, because the council did direct at the next workshop to consider the city attorney position. So if there's a consensus of council, we have to publish that agenda, unless you make a change.
I would move to table that so that the only things that would be on the agenda for Thursday's workshop would be the selection process for the next city manager, the utility that we had previously advertised.
Yeah, I would go with it. It's definitely going to take more than 30 minutes to talk about the selection process for the city attorney. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's going to be more than a 30-minute discussion.
It is not going to take 3 hours for the utility. I hope you got that message too, right? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Did we get everybody?
Yeah.
We need to make a motion?
No, the consensus is fine. We just want to make.
Consensus is
Thank you.
fine. Okay. That's it?
That's it for now.
Okay. Madam Attorney?
No report, thank you.
Okay, we have no further reports, so I call the meeting adjourned.